Good evening, chat. Hello. It's Thursday night. Excuse me. Whew. It's been a day of days. Been a long 2 weeks. 2.0's home. I had to go pick her up. She's back from the airport. And yeah, let's get to it. Let's get to it tonight. There's only like 120 people here. Jeez. If I don't show up right on time, like everybody just goes and like screws off, I guess. Damn. Wasn't trying to be late, but whoops-a-doodle. Whoops-a-doodle. That was not my goal. That was not my goal. Oh, let's see here. We need... Will this thing finally work? No, it will not. Where is... Okay. So let's get started, guys. It is Thursday night, and it is time to get moving here. Riveting content for Chrissy Mayer now. I'm sure it is. All right. So let's but welcome, guys. Hope everybody's doing well. I'm sorry, I don't have any stuff really prepared or like a agenda for tonight. Do you guys still have the mozzarella sticks? No. Keno Casino lost 600 viewers after making Jew jokes. Oh, what a bunch of pussies. So, I am late from Clyde's Tire Mart. Yeah, that's, well. The shirt makes me look like a mechanic. I know, people think I work at a Subaru dealership when I wear this. I'm competing with Chrissy Mayer, and like I'm competing with a horse and a hammerhead shark. You know, competing with a horse and a mulatto shark, and it's like, you know, these are the you know, I'm his strongest soldier. Apparently, I am God's strongest soldier. Yes, remember, 12% doesn't make you a Jew, but it make you black. Yes. All right, guys, let's get this. Living in Stug's walls temporarily. Hey, it's the lawyer guy. Well, thank you. All right. All right, guys. A couple minutes. Yeah, what else is going on here? Did I miss? So it'll be like a quartering stream, yeah. You threw a piston rod at 15 miles an hour and found metal confetti in your oil. Oof. Well, I mean, considering where you were like a year and a half ago, man, pretty good overall, right? Justice for Chud. Are you talking about Chud the Builder or Chud Logic? Because I was working on redoing the shower heads. We had to replace them to so they match up before we move. And I was listening to Chud Logic and apparently Destiny, and there was all kinds of doxing shit going on. It was hilarious. So, but I'm not sure that's the one you're talking about, but it was pretty funny. I don't even know what it was all about, but they were going forward on it. The box fort's looking kind of weak. Well, I showed 2.0 while she was gone, the progress, and it's like we have a real box fort going. Adam says, why don't I have internet friends? Also, Sean. Yes, that's what happens. That's what happens. Justin Hancock says, I celebrate 20 years of marriage this week. Hell yeah. Well, congratulations. You know, to you and your missus, another 20 more years and another 20 after that. You know, for however long you want to be together, but congratulations. You know, 20 years of good memories, I hope, overall. Let's see. I need to play I Have Autism by CWC as penance for being late. No, but I do think it's funny. People keep thinking the casino's left wing now for being SJWs and going after Jeremy. And I just think that it should be like, you know, like I said in this thing, it should be like, we are the Marxist Leninist PPPs. We're a bunch of queer non-binaries. We use praxis. Our foundational praxis shapes our views. We love Palestine, but hate the Jews. I think that'd be really good. Work with it from there. I workshopped it. A bunch of you liked it. Uh, isn't a train basically expensive as flying with the side benefit of bus type people? I mean, the type of people like that would ride the bus don't take a train; they take the plane. So the train actually has benefits. So, but with the death of Spirit Airlines, that's probably going to be the case. And putting together compilation for the quartering dead air. Yeah, I've heard that. Oh, thank you for the oranges. I appreciate the support. How's everybody's weekend going? It's going great, isn't it? Was it 2.0 coming home today? Yes. Yes, and she did. Her flight was on time. And they also, the last time I picked up 2.0, the arrival section at the airport here in Cleveland was fucking disastrous. But now it's all nice and clean and like it's orderly. It's really nice. They did a good job. um, Never sing again, sandwich man. Yeah, well, just giving you the idea. Okay, Pat says 2x the new job, haven't done a bit of single work because there's nothing to do. Your tax dollars at work. Um, you know what though? Congrats, man. Happy you're back at work. Happy you're back at work. That's the worst song intro. We are the felted AI PPPs. Like I towards the end, yeah, the battle and the conquest, but the first one's really good. The first one's really good. I think there are actually other songs in that I do not like. So it's a bad week to be a chud. Yes. Stacy says, do I own what? Yeah, Cax, I'm glad I'm not dead. Unfortunately, my budget is 6K on an engine I did plan on. Well, yeah, there's that. Yes, there's that. Yes. With Luther taking out all these, yeah, Luther Morgan's going. I guess what's he going after Tim Pool for? But that'd be funny to see. Let's see. Yes, the Queen is home. Yes, my Queen is home. Is this show going to be any good tonight? I'd like to think so. I'd like to think so. So let's get started. Yes, the dogs are happy and quiet. So, yeah, the PPP things did get played out. So, Stay says, own the house. Yes, this one, yes. And then the one in Florida, also, yes. So, selling's a pain. Yeah, but we live in we're in like McWhitersville. Like, it'll sell. We're not worried about this will sell. Like, we're not going to retard it. We are not going to be retards when it comes to price, but it'll move. It'll move. We're where people want to go. We have like one or two suburbs in between us that cushions us from Cuyahoga County, and like it's all good. It's all good. So, Thaddeus Thunderslong says, I was doing the dishes, heard someone strangling a cat. The hell, Sean. Well, thank you. Missouri Battle Flags, we should keep it as an asset. Next year, you won't be able to get another one. Well, I mean, but I don't want a rental property 1,200 miles away. Tech Guy says, I live in Clarksville where Chud pulled his stunt. We're going to cover him tonight. Tim Pool's posting video ads like Jeremy was for the number boost. Of course he is. I mean, like, the Trump bump is going down. It looks like, it's going to be. Is this the end for the right? No, but it's going to be, as Kenneth Branagh said in Conspiracy when he's playing the role of Reinhard Heydrich, it's going to be a longer and harder war. Much harder than believed. And it is. And it looks like, we'll limp through the midterms and we'll have to get ready for 2028. But it's just the energy's dying out. And people need new fires. We need, it'll come back, but it's just like, it's hard to maintain this intensity every time. And there isn't like channel. You can't give your channel cocaine to like when your viewership is here, but it needs to be here. We don't have that. So we got to make do. Justin Hancock says Conspiracy. It's a deep cut. It's a fucking awesome movie. I do like there's the it's like one of Laser Pig's lackeys. He's the fucking commie in Australia. And he's like, it's the scariest movie ever made. It's like, no, it's not. It's really well done. It's very well done. Yeah. People don't like 450 gas. I know nobody does, but yeah. There's not going to be any midterms. Trump's going for the wartime president third term. Based. I'll deal with that. And then living in Stug's walls temporarily get the wide sob. Thank you for your support. And that's weird tonight because this is green. But the last night somebody threw some subs in for the during the Corey Richardson. By the way, she got life without parole. It came up as a red boy, and I was like, "What the hell?" That was pretty cool. That was pretty cool. So, no, Perron, no. Anamarchy. Perron, he's a Australian ball licker as well, but no, it's Anamarchy history. Because when you read about him, he's like some loser goober, like trying to organize Australian workers. Like there's pictures of him out there. It's like, hello, fellow miners, let's organize. It's like they kick his ass. No, Perron is another one, but those are all paid shills for that. So stop saying cocaine. My nose smells. Yes. No, Sean Sandwich Sundry gifting five. Wait, hold. You don't normally throw in here. Are you sure you didn't mean to go to the casino? Just kidding. For 5 subs. This is kind of cool. They come in different colors now. I think YouTube's trying to encourage people like, oh, look, you've got all kinds of shit going on. But thank you for the support. Big fucking support tonight, chat. We get, we're going to get it going. Because Clyde's all snuggled up on 2.0, but we're getting it. All right. All right. And EDW Raptor for 5 subs as well. Another award. All right, guys, let's get into it. Let's get to the big stuff here. Let's get to the geez, amateur iconoclast. Okay. For 10 subs. Woo. Fucking red boy. Wow, I like that. It's kind of neat. It's like, a bunch of pinks and a red. I'm like, that never happens here, but I'm like, I like it. I like it. All right. Thank you for your support, your generosity, guys. Let's go. Yes, it's cool. They come in different colors now. I know. It makes me feel important. Oh. It is. Thank you. Hold on. Did I miss something? Okay, never mind. People thought you super chat racism. Yes. Yes. So I serve the Jews. Well, they're not paying me, so I'm a little upset about that. I'm a little upset. So let's keep going here. All right, guys, it's time to get started. And we'll start out on the thing that I don't know if you guys have seen, and we'll just start there. Dugan Ashley, also known as Carnicon. He has a real name as well. He has a government name. But Carnicon was kind of like one of the original gun tubers out there. And if you guys have ever heard of people like Nut and Fancy and like, oh God, just so cringe. So cringe. But Carnicon was out there with like FPS Russia, and he did all kinds of funny stuff. He did all kinds of cool stuff out there. Was really based, very, very based. And he had a pretty good channel. He had a pretty good thing going. And what ultimately happened for him is he ended up, from what it sounds like, he had some sort of like issue. Allegedly, it was like MS or something like that, some sort of medical problem. And because of that, he had to quit what he was doing. But he is famous. There, you've seen him before, probably in terms of memes. If you guys don't know, you don't know. And somebody likes Nothing Fancy. I mean, he's okay. Sometimes he can be cringe. But this is an example of Carnicon, he made a thing. It was like called a Mariflage. So it was all red, white, and blue, and all his tactical gear was drawn up that way. He went to SHOT Show with pistol braces taped to his shoulders and went and trolled the ATF with it. And that was back when they were going back and forth on whether or not you could shoulder a pistol brace. And if you guys are new to things, that was actually like a real thing. It was actually like a IRL thing there, chat. And oh, Johnny, I have all the stuff against Dugan, so don't worry on that. I have that. Okay, let me see. Oh, Luke, I'll have to read that. That looks really good. This U.S. attorney getting in trouble. But that is that's one of the things he did. And also, if you'd never seen him before, there's another picture of him. You've never seen him. Yes, now FPS Russia Now's prison stories. Yes, what's up, the TNPs? The Nut and Fancy Project. I remember though when Nut and Fancy had a big issue. He had like a LaRue 308 AR, and he kept on fucking with it. And he's like, "It's bullshit. It doesn't work." And they would go back to LaRue, and they're like, "No, you keep fucking with the gas system. Don't touch it." And it went on and on and on and on and on for months. And this is back before like Mark LaRue, like people like thought he was crazy. So it was very interesting times. Very interesting times. Yes, he had a Bullpup song. He did all kinds of stuff. So anyway, that was him then. After a while, he came back. And you guys have seen him before if you guys come see me on Locals. We've even watched him here, though. But now this is Dugan Ashley now. He runs a channel called Dug. And what does he do? Well, he has a series called Energetic America, where what is he doing? He's making ETN. He's making PBX. You're like, these sound like a lot of different things. He's making thermites and thermates. He's making nitric acid. He's working on ammonium nitrate. He is making detonation cord. He is making various things. He's making hydrazine sulfate. He's making aminoguanidine, NAP, which is, what the hell is it called? He's making different things. He's making TNT. He's making RDX. He's made things like ETN, PETN. He's made blasting caps. He's made all kinds of stuff. And it's amazing because, it's amazing what you can learn in a chemistry class. It's amazing what you can learn in a chemistry class. And yeah, this becomes a bit of an issue because we found out recently he got indicted, or he got charged, at least. He hasn't been indicted yet, but a lot of this goes on here. He seems gifted. Yeah, but he was in the Army. He was a sapper. He was an engineer. But really, Vinyl, if you start reading this stuff, you can learn a lot of this stuff. It doesn't take much to start making these chemicals. And like he shows you how to make blasting caps that are semi-reliable, which is like one of the bigger impediments to homemade explosives is having a proper initiating system. Because otherwise you have like, it's really tough to do, but having a reliable blasting cap is like a critical piece of things. Edward, well, we're going to get to all this because honestly, I thought the moral of the story was Dugan Ashley had a federal explosives license. And we're going to get to some issues here. So, can't propagate the anarchist cookbook. Well, we're going to get to all that. Yeah, somebody like you, Ag, yes, I'm sure you could start cooking it all up pretty quick. You could do all kinds of fun shit with it. And honestly, guys, you can too. It doesn't take much to learn how to make stuff. Guys who are shitting in, guys who live in shit-filled mud huts in the middle of the desert can make acetone and peroxide into TATP and make bombs and IEDs with it. It's not much. But we're going to start with this. And where do we start? Well, we're going to start with a press release from the U.S. Attorney's Office. And it says, Sweet Springs, Missouri man charged with manufacturing explosives, unlawfully possessing a registered destructive device, and distributing information relating to manufacturing explosives. You're like, all right, let's get to this. Let's see what happens here. So this is the press release as we start. And where does it go? Oh, also chat real quick. I am trying to work on clipping these up and making these clippable. So I'm going to hold off on putting comments up for a minute. So don't worry if I don't see your stuff right away. I'm not ignoring you. I want to make a clip for this. So we're going to have to do all this. All right. So here's the DOJ for the Western District of Missouri. And they're charging him with the manufacturing, possessing a destructive device, which is an NFA issue, and distributing information relating to manufacturing explosives. So what do they talk about? Well, so there was a complaint filed against a guy named Jordan Derrick, and this is Dugan Ashley. There's also Carnicon. So what are they doing, though? Well, they're saying beginner no later than September 18th of 2023, and if you go to his channel, well, what's he doing here? Going back 2 years, at least, he's making TNT, he's cooking up some RDX, he is working on NAP, he's doing a lot of different stuff. He's doing a lot of different stuff already back then. So what are they getting? What are they doing here? And if you look, it shows everything that he's doing. Everything that he's doing on his channel called Dug at Dugan Ashley 1337. Very lead of him. Very lead of him. So what is he doing? He's making various explosive materials, including detonators, which he did. I've seen that video. I have that video downloaded. Nickel aminoguanidine perchlorate, which is NAP. Ethylene glycol dinitrate. Hexamethylene triperoxide diamine, hexamine dinitrate, which is HDN, and then research department explosive chat. Yes, RDX. RDX. When we invented TNT, RDX was made because we needed that TNT, that little bit extra, and RDX became the thing. And you could also mix RDX and TNT. RDX is the main explosive used in military and a lot of different things today. Silver acetylide double salts. Then you have TNT, is trinitrozylene, which is TNX, trinitrotoluene, TNT, pentaerythyl tetranitrate, PATN, which this is actually a very robust and very usable explosive. No, guys, this is not plastic explosive, but he was working on trying to plasticize and make a binder slurry to make some plastic explosives. He was working on different things. He was providing step-by-step instructions. Watching the videos, he really doesn't do that. He really doesn't do that. But that's where we start. So let's get to the actual complaint here about what this is. So let's start, because a lot of you might say, well, wait, sharing information, that sounds like a First Amendment issue because we can have possession of the Ludi submachine gun plans. I can have the Anarchist Cookbook. You can have the Special Forces Improvised Munitions Manual. You can have a lot of different things. Well, here's where it becomes a bit of an issue. Here's where it becomes a bit of an issue for him. So this is the introduction here. We're not worried about that, but this is where we need to start looking. 18 USC 842. And that's where it becomes a thing because you're like, well, what does that show us? Well, that's not a normal one that we've ever looked up before. But 18 USC 842 does talk about here, and it starts addressing explosives and everything that goes on with explosives. So engaging in the imports or dealing with explosive materials, but that's not what we're looking for here. It's not what we're looking for here. We need to go down to P2 because P2 is the interesting part here. Talks about destructive devices, has the same meaning here. Explosives have the same meaning as other sections. And the weapons of mass destruction have the same meaning. So what do you do with this? What did he do? Did he ship anything? No. Did he help anybody? No. But what did he do that caused the problems here? Well, it's not, you're like, well, what happened? Well, we're going to get to that. We're going to get to exactly what he did in this situation here. So, where is... Oh, what is... Hold on, chat. Yeah. All right. Where is, damn it? Where is the. Oh, I know what I messed up. Hold on. We need to go. No, I didn't. No, I had it right. I had it right. Where the hell did I? Okay, hold on, chat. We're going to fix this here real quick. Did I miss the thing? All right, we'll work to it. We'll come back to it. So what did he do ultimately? So we go through all this, but where does this become an issue? Well, we start talking about this. And we get to 18 USC 842 P2. Oh, damn it. All right, so we go through all of his documents here, and we get to the important part here. It's unlawful for any person to teach or demonstrate to any person to any person. Oh, all right, so we'll start all over here. We're going to get the issue here. Quit being Hambly. I'm sorry. So as we get to this, it actually explains to us what he's done. You cannot teach or demonstrate to any person the making or use of an explosive. Okay, well, that's what we're looking at. A destructive device, which could mean anything, including any weapon with a barrel greater than a half inch, or a weapon of mass destruction, although this is clearly meant for explosives, or distribute to any person by any means information pertaining to, in whole or in part, the manufacture or use of an explosive, destructive device, or weapon of mass destruction. Knowing that such person intends to use the teaching, demonstration, or information for, or in furtherance of an activity that constitutes a federal crime of violence. So notice it's a very specific intent, but it's done with, you know, that the person intends to use the teaching, demonstration, or information for an act or activity that constitutes a federal crime of violence. So he never tells you to go out and do stuff in his videos. But more importantly, it's like what you're telling that person to go do. So what did he do here? What did they do here? And this doesn't make a whole lot of sense yet. And I read this earlier, and it still doesn't make any sense here. But we're going to start with the probable cause statement. And by the end, I guess we'll find some stuff. By the end, we kind of understand what the government's doing. Well, on January 1st of 2025 in New Orleans, a guy named Shamsuddin Jabbar conducted a terrorist attack. What did he do? He placed 2 IEDs on Bourbon Street, which didn't explode. During a subsequent search of the residence that had been rented by him, they found 2 laptops and a USB drive. Based on the review, they discovered videos created and distributed by Conricon. In the videos, he provided step-by-step instructions on how to make the explosives. They're not really step-by-step. There were approximately 12 videos in the videos folder, 6 of which were created by Dugan Ashley, or Carnicon. The videos were associated with other YouTube channels. Several of the videos created by Carnicon depicted the process on how to construct explosive components like detonators, NAP, EGDN, HMTD, HDN, RDX, and SADS. And guys, these are all fall under the banner of HME, homemade explosives. And they point out these are all explosive materials and components as defined under United States Code. These same videos were also found on devices on the YouTube channel and also on Odyssey. All right. And they say, following review of the videos, a video titled 0521 located there was last modified, duration time 21 minutes, 21 seconds, depicts Dugan Ashley describing NAP and how to construct it. NAP is an energetic compound that can be used as an explosive. Now, chat, this is an actual industry term. You don't make an explosive, you're making an energetic. These are energetic materials, and their energy is what is the explosion. But that is the technical term, is these are that. They have another video called Advanced Explosive Design, was found on YouTube. And it talks about there where Dugan Ashley talks about advanced explosive design as part of his energetic series. Yes, the series is titled Energetic America. There's another video called RDX2. And it depicts on Dugan Ashley's channel describing RDX and how to construct it. And RDX is a very powerful synthetic and white crystalline nitramine explosive that is primarily used in munitions, bombs, and plastic explosives. Yes. As I stated, chat, we had TNT, and on World War II came around, we're like, we need something with just a little bit more, and we made RDX. Below is a screenshot of thumbnails that were depicted on the Duke YouTube page. And they show all these things. And guys, we just looked at all that. We just scrolled through all of this. There was a video about detonators. And he talks about using detonators for devices where he's making, in that one, he makes detonation cord. And if you guys don't know what det cord is, it generally is like yellow. And if you see it, it comes in like big coils. And it's literally a tubular explosive charge that you can use that also detonates as it goes. They also indicate that at the beginning of the video, Dugan removes, YouTube removes the video, so he created an Odyssey account to upload all of it. And yes, these are from his, these are other ones from the YouTube webpage. They talk about the video for NAP being made, and they go through all this. They go through all the different things that he did, and you're like, okay, but how does this get to him working with a bomber or somebody doing it? That becomes it's a problem. And that becomes the issue of like, what are we doing here? Where are we going with this? So we're going to keep going. And guys, once again, yes, it's Dugan Ashley's YouTube channel. If you want to see it, by all means, be careful cooking. Explosives are dangerous. They all point out, though, the account holder of Duke channel referenced an associated Odyssey channel. A video is titled Duke's Delectable Detonator Secrets, and it was posted in 2025. And it stated, which is funny because this is well after the bombing attempt. Okay. And it says, hey, welcome. Glad you got this far. This is in the unlisted video section. This is where I put videos that probably get taken down by YouTube. So we are actually getting around censorship. That is what we are attempting here. So if these videos go down, the backups on Odyssey, that's where you can find all these. So they went ahead and, the FBI got records from Google. They got his billing information. They obtained the records from Odyssey. Remember, chat, nothing is anonymous. They did IP tracing. They go through all of this. They found also different things he did, Dugan's OnlyFans channel. And they talk about that, he is the account holder and user of it. And that he is the individual depicted in the videos. And his Missouri driver's license is him. And this is his Missouri driver's license picture. So this is they piece it all together, guys. That's how they do it. They talk about his Patreon subscriptions. And they talk about Patreon here and what happens here. So his account offers 3 tiers. There's Dugan's excuse tier for $4 a month. Buy Dugan supplies for $20 per month. And give Dugan all of your money for $100 per month. And the account had at least 118 members and 18 posts as of June 2025. Based. Good job. Good job. But anyways, here is his thing. You can go support him. It's going to definitely need it now. But this shows everything that he's doing, everything that's listed. It goes on further and further, though. He engages in comments with the users who comment on his videos. For example, a comment made on the RDX video, there was a following exchange with an individual using the videos to make explosives. And this is where things start. You're like, well, did he communicate? And you're like, well, this is where things start going a little sketchy, guys. Little sketchy here. So, somebody says, RDX require a urea wash. Does the nitrate oxide in the HNO3 affect the heating regime? I got fumes at 60 degrees centigrade. The acid initially had some nitrous in it, and by the end of the nitration, I didn't want to risk a runaway, so I dumped it into water. Still drying to get an idea of yield. And that's the thing. You have to dry and get the crystalline structure. And he says, no, 2, probably 3, screen the mix in a small mass to prevent catastrophic detonation. So he's not this. Nobody's here talking about so far committing any crimes with it or doing anything violent. So far, remember, what's the statute say? The statute that we're looking at doesn't have that part. And we're going to, highlight the one part here in red because it's critical. And I think this is the thing here that Dugan actually can rely on, because there's a big problem here. Knowing that the person intends to use the teaching demonstration in furtherance of an activity that constitutes a federal crime of violence. So far, no, that hasn't happened. So far, no, that hasn't happened as we go through this. It has not happened yet. But that's what we're stuck on right now, Chet. That's what we're stuck on. And it doesn't seem to be helping here. They talk about many of his videos. He responds to users and viewers who comment on his videos, and they ask questions, and he responds to them. He explains the chemistry behind the explosive making process. He also posted a comment video that he wants to make more videos and make it difficult to remove the videos. So what did he say? That he wants to do this? Okay, so he says they can delete your YouTube channel. They can't stop me from spreading this shit all over Discord. He says they won't delete it. I'm going to put a lot more out. And he talks about showing to his Odyssey. So the FBI investigation into the terrorist attack on January 1st were sent to the FBI for analysis, and they confirmed the explosives were chemically consistent with the instructional videos. Okay, well, yeah. So what happened? On April 4th, they obtained a search warrant for the YouTube account for him. And remember, the government has to go get this stuff. And as this goes here, a review of the record shows the same videos were found. In July, the Kansas City office opened an investigation on Dugan. And then in November, they obtained his Army records, and he was a 21B, which is combat engineer. He served as a team leader for the Sapper Leader course, which is, I've told people who've been through the Sapper course have told me it's fun, and you get the nice little red and white Sapper tab. He provided personal and tactical support during that course. Done quite a few things. You notice they're putting all this here to make him sound dangerous. He was doing waterborne operations, airborne, and mountain ops. He's like a commando. In 2019, he left active duty. In 2013, he was honorably discharged. They went ahead and obtained his phone records to go through all of this. They talk about his phones. We're not worried about the phone numbers, but they get everything, chat. They get everything on you. If you don't understand it, they get everything. They get everything. Data uploads and downloads took place almost 24 hours a day over certain time frames. And they're showing that he's uploading and moving and shaking. They got his wife's phone numbers. He had made, they noticed he had made numerous phone calls to the VA, consistent with him being a former Army service member. So this is how they put this all together. They're piecing it together. Well, how do you know it's him? He calls the VA all the time. And he has, like I said, multiple sclerosis or something that's really, really screwing him up. They also got employment history checks were conducted. They checked, your wife. Neither Dugan or his wife has reported any income either to Missouri or Kansas. Sounds like they're not paying taxes. Kind of based. And this is the thing here, though. So far, chat, you're saying, well, wait. He hasn't done anything to incite violence or cause problems. What happened? Well, he posted a comment from his YouTube account on another user's video titled, "People are refusing and a rebellion has begun." And Dugan stated, 10 years ago, I realized things were heading for the worst. I abandoned my career path, sold most everything I owned, and moved to the rural country. It's the best decision I ever made. So far, not so bad. It took a lot of examples of dramatic social upheaval to get me to the point to be willing to do that. It was hard the first few years, especially financially. But it was the right path. In some ways, the things that have happened are not yet as bad as I fear. In other ways, it is so much worse. I thank God every day for my life to be farther away where I am. Okay, but is that violence yet? No, not yet. Not yet. They went ahead and obtained his financial records. They got his USAA bank account. There's no indication of employment salary. He does receive a monthly disability payment from the VA of about $5,000 a month. He also gets payments from Ko-Fi of about $700, and then Patreon about $700. Outside of the content, he has no known employment. So those videos you watch him sitting in a barn and just making his stuff. That's apparently what he does, which you're like, based, but it's like, man, I don't know about that. I don't know about that. I guess. Um, I guess. Um, it is an interesting way of dealing with it. It is an interesting way of doing it. And then we go on to keep reading this. You're like, okay, well, still, this doesn't sound so bad. It doesn't sound so bad. It doesn't sound so bad. But it gets worse. It gets worse here. On January 29th, they obtained his PayPal records showing he made multiple purchases. He bought a bunch of chemical precursors making homemade explosives, HME. So what did he buy? He bought a lot of ammonium nitrate prills. He bought manganese granular mesh, barium carbonate, and then ag. I know you're out there. You're probably reading this like it's a really great shopping list. But he's buying a lot of different chemicals. Buying a lot of different chemicals. So like I said, chat, they can figure it out. They can figure it out. Even more stuff, you're like, and getting the nickel-plated metal thimbles, that gives you the nickel for the NAP, probably. And based on consultation with the FBI Terrorist Explosive Data Analytical Center, these components and compounds are commonly used in the synthesis of homemade explosives. Yep. PayPal records also show they received $1,700 sent from 16 different people with the subject line, Ko-Fi for Dugan Ashley. And the YouTube page for Dug also listed Dugan Ashley as the link for donation support, which was to ko-fi.com/Dug. And they say, this is Dugan's special sauce page. I will post more private behind the scenes stuff here. Interact your questions. If you want to support me, I promise to turn your dollars into pressure waves. And yes, this is him. And, this is when you guys make explosives, if you aren't aware, distilling down crystals, for what you would be able to make, you make like little bits at a time. You can't make big batches. You need industrial equipment and chemicals and processes to make enough to do something. Now, was that enough, explosive to blow your hand off? Sure. But if you're trying to make a 500-pound bomb full of RDX, you need a ton of it. You need 500 pounds RDX. So what happens? Well, in 2026, the Ko-Fi account was not visible. Nobody knows if it got taken down yet. But there are some issues with it. And say they reviewed the records of Patreon, and he's trying to have problems here, setting things up. But they also, they show that 34 people have pledged to support him there. The pledges varied and totaled $470. And it says, as of February, the Patreon account was not publicly visible. I mean, so far, still, I haven't seen a question. I haven't seen a question yet of him doing anything that was wrong. I don't see anything yet. But people ask him why he closed down. He says, there was a Jewish weirdo that was writing death fantasies to me about my family. He was following the Patreon. I realize I don't like people or care if they know anything about me or what I do or don't do. Okay, still nothing illegal. Stuff still not illegal so far. What's the illegal thing yet? I don't know. When you read this, I still don't see it. Now, here's where the FBI goes on. They call somebody from the ATF and ask whether he has a license to manufacture explosive or distribute information relating to the manufacturer. Those are both licensed things. You may not have realized that, but making bombs and explosives, yes. But also a license to distribute and teach that, yes. He did not have a license to make explosive distribute information. They did check his, the ATF did check things like the NFRTR, the National Firearms Registration and Transfer Record. They checked him for NFA items. He did not have any registered destructive devices, though. He probably had suppressors and short-barreled rifles. And they say, based on this, he possessed the device he detonated in a vein, and that device is not registered. Yeah, if you make an explosive, if you make it into an explosive device, it's a destructive device. You have to pay tax on that, unless you're a special occupation, so an SOT, but he wasn't one of those. And, you need all the permitting and everything from there on top of it. They obtained records for his OnlyFans and the account was registered there, and it was an active account. Um, but using it also through a VPN. But yeah, look, they already found everything about him. They went and got the Google records, and they show that he's been doing everything with this. In March, they got a search warrant for his Google account, and they received documents to that. The Google account was associated with an OnlyFans account. It was with his Discord, his Clipchamp, Loyal Fans, and Snapchat accounts. He used an Apple iPhone 17 Pro Max, an iPad, and a Windows 10 PC. Guys, they put this all together. They put it all together to you. They keep going on all of this. The Odyssey contains 24 videos with all the bomb-making material in it. And they also link things to your direct deposits. They're putting it all together to show it's clearly you. It's clearly you. Now, what's the issue here? So they show that there were, in addition to these full investigations, the FBI has expressed these FBI subjects expressed intent to use his videos to make bombs and use them to cause death or serious physical injury in support of others their cause. So they're pointing out that we have other investigations going of people we're dealing with who claim they're going to use his videos to go cause mayhem. Well, he's not actively encouraging to do that. He doesn't know they're doing that. Does he know what they're saying? Do you have to police the, if they say it on a different platform, is it now Dugan Ashley's job to know every platform all his viewers are on? No, I still think we're in a First Amendment issue here of restricting the information. I think is a massive problem. There's also the whole Bruin issue. Are these arms? I mean, yes, but they're very unusual. Most people didn't carry explosives. And they talk about in May of this year at approximately 3:39 in the morning, Odessa, Missouri police were dispatched to an explosion. And what they found? They found explosives manufacturing material and 2 possible devices. The occupant of the apartment told him that he was watching tutorials on how to make IEDs. That's not really how you should tell the cops you're doing this. You tell them you're making chemistry. Don't tell them I'm making bombs. The videos were taken down and moved to Odyssey. They claim that Duke had been very ill and is not sure if Duke was still posting videos. Yeah, like I said, he's got multiple sclerosis or something really chronic there. But then here's the problem. They sample his online comments. Okay. He had a video titled Pyrovalance Example. And they say here that, and this is where some people have talked about this, and Matt Hoover over at CRS Firearms mentioned this, and yeah, this is where you start coming into problems. This looks like fun, but I can't find the laws specifically to let me do this. Although the ATF's page on binary explosives, and guys, binary explosives are things like tannerite. In tannerite, you get two jars, and you buy them as 2 separate things, and you mix them together to make an explosive. And tannerite's a thing where you shoot, and then it goes. You are allowed to do that because you make that. They've decided you can make that. It's also not a super dangerous explosive. It's not powerful traditionally compared to other stuff, and you're allowed to do that. Now, the thing is, when you make your tannerite, you can't transport it. If you take it, you have to make it at the range you're doing it or the place you're shooting at. You can't make it and put it in your car and then drive around with it. That'd be very dangerous anyway, because enough of an impact could set it off. Like you get in a big enough car accident, your car's going to explode. And it says, they find here persons manufacturing explosives for their own personal non-business use only are not, and notice personal target practice, meaning tannerite, are not required to have a federal explosives license permit or 27 CFR Part 555. And he says, I can't find the exemption. Can you point me in the right direction? And then this is where, I get people want to say free men don't ask for permission. It sounds awesome and it sounds like ballerific. It's not. It's not. He says, I assume you're in America. Well, yeah, that's a big issue here. Different nations have other laws. If in America, you're looking for something that doesn't exist, you don't need a permission slip to make explosives. Not correct. I would not be making, and apparently he did that. I would not be making explosives without a federal explosives license. If you kill someone or destroy property, you will be liable. If you transport, manufacture, or sell stockpile explosives, you're under the jurisdiction of the ATF. There's never been any time in history been some sort of authority that authorizes you to synthesize explosives. If you are transporting, storing, and manufacturing in USA, you need to meet all legal requirements of the BATFE. So he's admitting to it, which it's like, I get it. Free men don't ask for permission, and it's like, thumping your nuts like that. I don't know why you feel like that helps you. I don't know why you feel like that helps you. Like, what is that? What good does that do for you? Yeah, I'm totally doing whatever the fuck I want. Fuck you. It's like, why? Why would you do that? Why would you do that? It's just, if you want the feds to get in your life, that's how you get them in your life. And the guy says, "Yeah, I live in America. Like many things, it's all made up and arbitrary." It is, but the way this works, and you need to understand it, guys. Why do I tell people, the government can do whatever they want? Because they have more guns than you do, and that's not a. I don't say that to be blithe, or snippy or anything at all, but it's true. They have more guns than you do, and they're willing to kill you if you don't pay your taxes. They'll kill you over not paying your dog's license permit. They're willing to kill you over anything and everything. And it says, if they're fine with binary explosives, then they can't really have a problem with things that take a few extra steps, I suppose. Once again, that sounds great. That sounds great, but do you want to be? Are you looking to be the test case? Are you looking to be the test case? Because that's the logic of somebody who wants to be a test case. And ultimately, this is where things come into problems here. Okay. He says, yes, there's no recent legal ruling, but explosives are covered by the Second Amendment of the U.S. Constitution. I fully agree with this. You should be allowed to have javelin missiles. I should be able to go buy a battery of Chinese silkworm cruise missiles and have them bolted to the roof of my house. Why? Because you never know. But the government's not agreeing with that. You're also, and as I told you before, chat, we are never going to get like free AK-47s. We probably never getting the NFA reopened. It's hard enough, even with Bruin, to get judges to allow people to recognize the Second Amendment. So just whether or not you can have a 30-round magazine, your AR-15 in Colorado or New York, that's taken monumental work. The idea that you can get an AK-47, not happening. So even more, the idea that I can go make C4 and cook it up in my garage and make something, or make like a cratering charge, or make like Amatol or any other type of explosive that's out there. There's no way in hell you're finding a judge that's going to let you do that. He's like, it's the same as black powder. The government does not treat it like black powder. Oh no. Oh no. The first battles fought were over the confiscation of powder. Yes, but. And he points out the only difference between black powder and other explosives is the detonation velocity, and that's true. Like C4, the detonation velocity is like 26,000 feet per second. And that's part of the thing that the explosive, as it's burning and exploding, sometimes you want something that can do it fast. And the faster it goes, the more energy it can carry. And it makes it a little more devastating. That's why C4 is very good. There's other times you don't necessarily want that. And you see, like, if they're doing blasting and mining, they use a lot of, like, ammonium nitrate. They'll also use other types of things, like a lot of TNT. They can use all kinds of different things. They say there are other powder mixes besides black powder that have even higher velocities. There are. The ATF is not a lawful entity, has no lawful reference to cite to necessitate its jurisdiction over explosives. Once again, I mean, this sounds great. This sounds great and all. This sounds great and all, but, they beg to differ. And as long as you understand, and this is where I guess I'll just point out real quick. As long as you understand what you're looking at and, the bounds of the rules of the game you're playing, and that if you end up, in Monopoly, if you end up, going to jail, not passing go and not collecting $200, if you understand what that is and what it'll do to you and to your family, then by all means, okay, great. But you need to have full disclosure if you're going to do that. And I don't know if this guy had it or not. I don't know if this guy had it or not. He says it's an arbitrary power which they claim under the guise of commerce or professional commerce regulable uses. He says their authority is unrelated to the regulation of explosives in general as a technology, and they certainly don't have lawful authority to prohibit explosives. They beg to differ, and they're doing that right now. Guns themselves are in the same line of ATF. All gun regulations are related to commerce and selling and distribution of guns. Yeah, it is. The ATF further purview because they got their foot in the door with congressional authorized background checks, which they themselves must administer and maintain. If you manufacture weapons, build pistols and rifles, it's protected activity under the Second Amendment. It should be. They have no authority to demand you to produce a serial number, nor authority to prohibit personal manufacture of guns, and technically even automatic weapons, which are also covered by the 2A. Now, if he's out there, now here's the thing. I have a feeling there will be an actual indictment that comes out. And if he's sitting there cooking up fucking RDX, I guarantee if he doesn't have a machine gun in his possession, I am really, really, really surprised. They're currently operating on the assumption because there's been no Supreme Court challenge and they are implemented the Hughes Amendment, which does not prohibit weapons but simply regulates their sale and distribution or commerce. But all those mentioned above are 2A. Explosives are much different because they don't require manufacturing machinery or large expenses to produce. I mean, they do require a lot of expense. The amount of chemicals you need is very expensive. It's not cheap. It's a very labor intensive process. And you have to know what you're doing, or you end up missing a couple of fingers. I think I've told the story before about where I was the kids in one of the schools I grew up when I was a senior. I think around the time frame, these kids made a pipe bomb, and they took a copper pipe and hammered the one end shut and folded it over, poured in a bunch of black powder. Then they hammered the other end shut. As they folded it over, there was a piece of black powder that got caught where they were creasing the copper pipe. And kaboom! And I think the one kid lost both of his hands and maybe only had like a finger. And then like the other kid had his one hand, and it was like, this is all he had left. Shit's nasty, man. Shit's nasty. So, he says explosives can be made from anything, pretty much. Tremors is actually correct. A lot of household chemicals in the right proportions will make a bomb. Explosives can be made from table salt. They can. You can even use a bag of flour for the pyrophoric effect, much like in a grain elevator, and cause it to woof. So what did he also do here? He posted a comment on another comment here. It says the ATF is the regulatory authority. They're obviously not a legitimate law enforcement agency because, as you can see right now, their rulings are constantly struck down in courts. The ATF regulates based on commerce. If you aren't making taxable money from the use of explosives, you escape their entire purview of authority under commerce. Nope. You don't. Do not. That's not enough. But once again, we still haven't seen anybody where he's doing the teaching of this. And as we go back to this chat, there's no nothing here that shows he knows what's going on. There's nothing here that shows what's going on. There's nothing here that's demonstrated that. He hasn't demonstrated any violent action towards the government or anything at all yet. They enforce rules on storage and transport. If you avoid storage, avoid transporting it. No driving to range, and don't manufacture devices like anti-personnel devices, which is true. You don't make a bouncing Betty. You don't make a Claymore. Then you escape pretty much all regulatory authority. This is something where you really should have asked an attorney about this. Other than the clause of commerce and public safety, there's no regulation of explosives. Public safety is a fucking massive policy argument here. Yeah. Even devices that are deemed illegal are clearly covered by the Second Amendment. Yes, are you willing to go to prison over that? Of course, I wouldn't press my luck regarding that. Well, you're literally pressing your luck because you're making shit without any. You're doing whatever you want. You really are pressing your luck. But using explosives for research is definitely not regulated. Most explosives were discovered by civilians. They were. Now, is he going to go ahead and make the arguments here? Sure. Can he make the First Amendment argument? Sure. I don't think it's going to work at the end of the day. But somebody asked him, what's the shelf life on this stuff? He's like 2 years on NAP and counting, decades on PETN, probably many decades of shelf life. Yeah, as long as you keep it clean, keep it dry and out of the way of moisture, most of these explosives will last forever. And unlike nitroglycerin, you don't have to worry about sweating out the nitro and keeping the dynamite, rotated. You don't have to worry about any of that. And he says, he goes on to talk about here. This is where they get a little fucking whiny though. So he says, like, anyway, why don't you come and go into the lab over here and let's get set up. So the video then shows Derek entering his garage and wiping his boots off on an already wrinkled and dirty Israeli flag. He then states to the camera, "Oh, do make sure you wipe off your shoes when you come in. We got to keep a clean house." Gabe Hoffman's fingerprints are on this, I can tell. He says there's a plethora of moral, entanglements with the topics of teaching explosives. He's like, of course the wrong people could get it. Of course it could be misused. Will it be? It will be misused, right? Well, and this is where I think this is the closest thing they get to him acknowledging people are going to be using it for bad. So you have knowledge of that, but I don't know if that should count. I don't think it should. But if you hadn't noticed, the seams of this address might be coming apart here. So my angle on is my responsibility to my countrymen to make sure that I serve the function of the Second Amendment and strengthen it for you, my fellow militia. And that's what this is all about. This is how I serve my country for real. It's just like firearms. If you teach someone firearms, of course that information could be used. But the fact of the matter is Green Berets teach enemy combatants in combat to fight, and they fight us later. That's very true. And that's been going a long time. So this kind of stuff is, and it's really quite innocuous, but critical information that we would need if we needed to use it in warfare. And in unconventional warfare, this is going on all the time. This is going on in Eastern Europe right now. So if you come up with your weapons for knocking out tanks and fighting infantry, this is a viable topic. That's why they don't want you to know it. And that's true. They don't want you to know how to do this shit because it could cause them problems. He says, terrorists already make bombs. Terrorists already make detonators. This isn't anything new. It's new to you, though, my viewer. Yes, it's new to all of us. Now, this is the thing here where he did comment, you have every right to defend your sovereignty and destroy invaders. Now, once again, it's like, how is this going to be used? And I think this is where they're trying to claim it. Do I think it's enough yet? Still, no. But I'm not in the U.S. Attorney's Office, so. And they go on here and it says, he talks about what's going on here. And it keeps going. So they talk about his purchase history. They go through all the shit he buys. Once again, we've already talked about all this. All the different things he's going through here for this. And they point out that you have to store explosive materials in a manner that conforms with federal regulations. And it's such as the case when they're stored in an occupied residence. And that's one of the big issues, chat. And I looked into this, like to get a federal explosives license. Because at the time when we were looking at militarizing the RPG too, well, if you used black powder in it over certain amounts in a destructive device, you need an FEL. You can't have that in an occupied residence. It can't be in your garage. It has to be in a standalone structure. So right away, I couldn't do it. I don't have the room for it. He says, I know it's a violation to possess an unregistered firearm, and that includes explosives and incendiaries and bombs, chat, and that's why making a Molotov cocktail can get you sent to federal prison. A simple Molotov cocktail is an incendiary device, which requires a $200 tax stamp and engraving on it. You just can't do it, and you might not like that, chat, but that's the way it goes. They say they searched all the databases. There's no evidence that the explosives were registered to him as required by statute. And I still don't know if that's correct that he needs that. So they go on here and they request that this get sealed until they arrest him. And they go forward with this. So right now he's looking at quite a bit. But ultimately, what are we dealing with here? And it becomes an issue of, did he commit this crime? Hold on one second, chat. Okay, guys. So you get into this, and is he doing this? Is he doing this information that with the intent that the teaching is used in furtherance of an activity that constitutes a federal crime or a crime of violence? I mean, is he? Is he? I don't know. Like, is that, is that going to be an issue here? Or once again, you go through all this and it says, knowing that such person intends to use the teachings or information for a crime of violence. Is he doing it with the intent that people do this to make bombs? Or is this counting as he knows that person intended to make a bomb there? And it's like, I don't know. I still don't know if that's there. I think there's a lot of First Amendment grounds he can argue with. Now, what's the issue here? Well, when you look at what's going on, if you go to the penalties for this, well, for example, for the explosives issues, you could get up to 20 years. Up to 20 years. And then obviously the unregistered destructive device, you get to 10 years. Like, he's looking at like at least 40 some years right now. And that's not even counting what the grand jury will probably indict him for. I'm sure they're going through there. They're checking all of his firearms. They've weighing and assessing the explosives that he's built and manufactured. He's looking at a lot. Here. And yes, there is a GoFundMe that's set up for him. If you guys want to donate to it, you can. His family has set some stuff up. His work's gonna be cut out for him. Do I think he's got a First Amendment ground that he could probably argue for? Sure. I don't know what these people are gonna do. He doesn't know what's gonna happen here. Is he intending for it to happen? No. He's showing people how to make bombs for the Boogaloo, though. I mean, it's clearly that's what it's meant for. So yeah. Yes. I mean, that's the thing, man. It's a game you're playing, and you better know the rules. And it's a very serious game, and it's a game you do not want to lose. To quote Robert Redford in Spy Game. So good luck, Duke. I mean, I hope he wins. I don't know though. I don't know what's going to happen there. Jesus Levy says, but black powder is fine. Yes, black powder is fine as long as you have less than 50 pounds of it. There are limits, though, once you start using a lot of black powder. That can change things. If you have model rocket engines become an issue. You can only have so many of those. And if you guys, the model rocket engines, they're full of explosive that burn. And the rockets take off. And at the end, there's generally a big charge at the end of it that will either detonate like out the parachute and push it out, or do something else to deploy it. So yeah, it's a very, those rocket motors you could buy for like Estes rockets and stuff, even the little ones are like, you can cause some damage with those if you're trying to work at it. Bug says deck cord is fun. EOD probably. I mean, I've seen all the cool shit you can do with deck cord. You can use deck cord to cut down trees. Especially if you're like a bunch of like small, skinnier trees like this big around and whatnot, just run around it with deck cord. It's like, poof. You can always use deck cord in breaching situations. Deck cord can be used along with like pieces of rubber to make like smaller breaching charges on like less structurally sound doors. You can use deck cord taped to targets to make like wall charges. There's a lot of stuff you can use deck cord for. Deck cord is a very, very versatile thing. Missouri Battle Flag says, in the industry, a booster helps the main charge go off. Yes, a booster is what you use to get something kicked off. So, like, for example, in the Oklahoma City bombing, all those bags of fertilizer needed something to set them off. So what did they do? They built a booster charge of black powder and various other things, and it was like a multi-part booster charge. And that detonated, and it detonated all the fertilizer in the NFO. You have to have, sometimes you need a booster charge. That's like an initiator too. So like using blasting caps. There are different ways you can do this stuff. So here we get to the rest of this. It's like, what's it going to be? What's it going to be for this? I don't know. I do not know. If they outlaw gunpowder, they outlaw bullets. That is correct. Yes, controlling all that stuff is critical for them. Eventually, if you can eliminate reloading, well, then you can eliminate the ability of people to have more ammunition. And then from there, you can really throttle down how much ammunition people own. And that's how you can also pacify people. You can have 1 million guns, but if you can only have 100 rounds of ammo. Yeah. Is Duke's YouTube picking up a ton of subs? Yes. Hopefully it is. Fair Frozen 55 says, Sean, I thought this was America. Can a guy hang out in his house and make TNT? I know. I thought so too, but apparently not. Apparently not. Guy Remek says Richard Glossop is out on bond. And we're going to mention something about Richard Allen, actually, too. Glossop, we're going to go through and read his case at some point here coming up in front of the Supreme Court. EDW Raptor says mixed tannerite in your trunk turns your car into a Ford Pinto. Yes, it does. Do not do that. Do not do that. Daddy Smith Thunderthlong says first thing that shows up for Sweet Springs, Missouri is a cheese store. Josh, would you care to explain? That's so funny. That's so funny. His YouTube channel was removed. Oh, it's gone now? It's still here. It's still here. I just refreshed it. It's still here. You can find it at Dugan Ashley Leet. It's still up. I'm looking at it right now. We'll refresh it. We'll go whoop-pow. Wow. Wow. He's got more. I got more subs than he does. By the way. Based. Yeah, if you want to download it now from Odyssey. Yep. Download it from now. Get that 4K downloader going. All right, guys. From there, let's move on to some other stuff that's going down that I thought was kind of interesting to look at. This is out of the state of Texas. This is kind of funny. We got some more serious stuff, but this is a little weird here. This is the Supreme Court of Texas to another from the Supreme Court to a judge. And it says the Honorable Demetria Benson. I can only imagine her. But anyway, let's see what's going on here. So it's talking about a mask mandate. You're like, big issue though. 2026. What's going on, you may ask? Well, the Chief Justice says, it's come to my attention. You may be requiring people entering your courtroom to wear face masks and divulge intimate information about their health. And it's because there is a Dallas lawyer challenging the mandate. He says, if this is not true, I apologize for wasting your time. That's coded for, I really hope to God this is just a mistake. If, what are you doing? What are you doing? If this is true, please carefully reconsider whether you have legal authority for these actions. Article 1, Section 13 of the Texas Constitution guarantees that all courts shall be open. I am aware of no legitimate basis for which a Texas judge may condition a person's presence in a courtroom on a mask requirement or on a heightened health screening. Rule 10F under the Rules of Judicial Administration, it says the Supreme Court may direct the court to amend or withdraw a local rule, form, or standing order. The Supreme Court determines that the rule, form, or standing order is unfair or highly burdensome. So, for example, if the judge made a local rule that said that if you wish to cross-examine a witness, you have to ride a unicycle. Well, we're not doing that. The justice says, please respond either by clarifying that you do not require a mask as a condition of entry, or by explaining to the court why the court should not direct you to withdraw any such requirement. Please respond by email by 5 p.m. Friday, May 15th. You may send your response to rules comments at texascourts.gov. Sincerely, James D. Blacklock, Chief Justice. Now, it's nice that he uses sincerely instead of regards, but he also didn't use the most dangerous thing of govern yourself accordingly, although this is very much a govern yourself accordingly situation. Huh. What is going on there in Texas? Well, COVID really broke a lot of people. And it doesn't make any sense. It does not make any sense what's going on there. But we are going to pull up, what is Judge Demetria Benson? Well, there you go. If you weren't sure, there you go. What's her education experience? 40 years of being a judge. Well, I think that's all about to get flushed down the pipes here. But anyways, this is her. So can't let COVID interfere like that anymore. Can't let COVID interfere like that anymore, chat. So don't be this person. Don't be this person. So I can only imagine that the lulls are going to get funnier from here as she probably screams about racism or something funny in her response, and probably leads to her getting removed from the bench because, yes, in 2026, this is absolute lunacy. But once again, like I said, we shall see. We shall see. It was kind of funny. It's kind of funny in the meantime. All right, guys. Another thing that happened, speaking of courts and Supreme Court's getting involved, we have a big update in the Richard Allen case. Guys, remember Richard Allen was convicted of murdering 2 girls out in the woods at a park in rural Indiana. Once again, Richard Allen is the poster child for do not talk to the cops. If you do, you will go to prison, because that's what happened to him with the most absolutely disgusting trial that I've ever seen or heard of. Well, his appeals are going forward, and he is now in the Court of Appeals of Indiana. And what are we seeing here? Well, it's a Court of Appeals case, and it says that Richard Allen, as the appellant, he has filed a motion for oral argument. And having reviewed it, what's going to happen? Well, Monday, September 21st, they are going to be in the Supreme Court rooms at the State House, and they're going to have oral arguments. So it's not the Supreme Court of Indiana, but this is the first step, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And this will actually be something I've already put on my calendar, and I'll be around to cover that, because guess what? I'm going to be sitting with the dogs. Adam says September's a long time away. It's always, dude, it's going to be honest before you know it. But they point out everything that's going on here. And this is what's going on. So, and all the judges concur for it. They all agree. So, good luck, Richard. I mean, he's got some real assassins on his legal team. So I'm hoping they can really kick some ass. They can really kick some ass here. Because otherwise, I don't know what's going to happen, man. I don't know what's going to happen, and I'm not sure how that's going to turn out, but there's remember, guys, hope is frail, but it is hard to kill. So we will see what happens. We will see what happens there. Now, going on to our next thing here in chat. This is, if you guys are not well versed in it, if you're not a fan of the farms, this is the thing that if you're a fan of the farms, you have understood terms exist. But we're dealing with 2 terms out of India. And we are dealing with 2 of them. And we're going to talk about the first one. The first one is kind of obvious. It's something we all have. This first term is something we all have as people. And it's the idea of like ghetto engineering. Or nibba rigging, or whatever you want to call it, kludging, or whatever, bodge job, I think is what they call it in England. We all have that going through our DNA of, or if you watch Red Green, getting out the duct tape, putting shit together and kind of making do. Well, in India, it's called Jugad, and it's a concept of non-conventional and frugal innovation. Which, once again, we do that everywhere. We do that everywhere, but it's common on the Indian subcontinent. Once again, yes. But anyways, these are some good examples of, what do you do? Well, it's get her done. It's like Larry the Cable Guy, get her done. We're going to put some blocks under this to balance this roof. Yep, that's a good example. This is another good example. How do you keep keeping your laptop open so you can watch stuff in the middle of the night? There's a lot of examples of this stuff. Pulling a motorcycle that goes down with another one. Yes, also how they're working all these things together. And yes, when you got to make do, you got to make do. Well, there's another concept we need to address. Izzat. And it's a concept of honor, dignity, and social respect that is prevalent in the subcontinent. And it's about face, but it's an insane level of face. It's considered, equality in giving and equality in vengeance. It is something that is deeply, deeply ingrained in Indian people. It's just like it's even worse than for the Japanese, that if you damage their Izzat and you challenge it, if you dishonor one's debt, you can cause people to lose their Izzat. They may kill themselves. Like, they will hurt themselves and it can be very, very dangerous. And it can cause a lot of problems. And it becomes an issue of just merely pointing out that someone's wrong and forcing them to accept that they're wrong. That's why you see, like, in India, like, they do weird stuff, and it's like, well, nobody accepts responsibility. Well, we have a bit of an issue there. We have a bit of an issue because if we go back to Baltimore, Maryland, or as it's well known, Baltimore Murderland. Well, to quote The Wire, well, we have this thing that happened. If you guys remember, this is the Francis Scott Key Bridge in Baltimore. And remember, the ship hit one of the main spans, and it literally collapsed the whole fucking bridge. Literally collapsed their whole bridge. Literally collapsed their whole bridge. You guys were wondering, is this like the caste system? Kind of. It's kind of like the caste system in a way. But notice, it literally collapsed a bridge, killed the construction crew that was on the bridge. And yes, this is it involves a lot of circle talk and a lot of avoiding responsibility. Yes, and our flag was still there, but not the bridge, sadly. But as this goes on, well, there have been some charges. There have been some charges filed. And notice, you're going to say, well, wait, why do we not know about this if this was over a month ago? Well, see that big red word sealed? It was sealed. We didn't know this existed. And this dropped like a certified hood classic. And yes, guys, rip to Jeff Harrison over at Legal Vices. He would have loved to cover this. So what is this? Well, it's Synergy Marine Private Limited, Synergy Maritime Private Limited, and then Radhakrishan Kartik Nair. I don't know who that is. Sar! We'll call him Sar. Wow, so somebody's getting listed as a defendant here. Well, what do they get charged with? Conspiracy to defraud the United States. Conspiracy to commit offenses against the United States. You're like, what? Ports and Waterways Safety Act, failure to report hazardous conditions, misconduct or neglect of ship officers resulting in a death. You're like, is that a crime? Yes, apparently it is. Obstruction of agency proceedings, false statements, 18 USC 1001. The Clean Water Act, discharge of pollutants, discharging harmful quantities of oil, discharging of refuse, aiding and abetting. So what happened here? So the MV Dolly is a 984-foot, 95,000 gross ton foreign flag ship registered in Singapore, chat. And remember, Singapore is home to the one end of the Straits of Malacca. It's a very big maritime hub. And it transported commercial cargo in and out of ports, including the port of Baltimore. The Francis Scott Key Bridge was a highway that crossed the Fort McHenry Channel and was located on the lower Patapsco River near Baltimore, Maryland. And if you guys don't understand, this was a massive artery for Baltimore. I mean, I've been on it before. It was really cool. You could see Fort McHenry from it. And like, there's all kinds of cool stuff that's going on out there. And it was a massive, massive part of what was going on in Baltimore. As you guys can see, here's Baltimore. And, look, it's like, I-695 and and you're like, uh-oh. It's a big deal. Like, if you live here and you want to get to here now, you got to like go all the way around. This is a big, big problem. It's a big, big problem when this bridge went down. It opened in 1977 and has been used by 12 million vehicles annually, including trucks carrying hazmats that are prohibited from transiting other routes with tunnels. And Baltimore actually has quite a few tunnels that goes under the harbor and the Patapsco River. And at 1:29 a.m. in 2024, after leaving the port of Baltimore, the MV Dolly crashed into the Key Bridge, causing the death of 6 construction workers and destroying the bridge. The elision, and they point out here that an elision occurs when a moving object strikes an object that is not moving, which is different than a collision. So notice, this is an actually. Libby says, I live in Baltimore. The bridge collapse impacted so many people. The cost of time rebuilding is soared. Yeah. It's like it's not going to be done anytime soon. It's been 2 years already. Yep. So they go through this and they talk about the elision resulting in pollution of the Patapsco River and the Chesapeake Bay, which, if you guys were not aware of, and if you aren't very good, if you live in Rio Linda, chat, Baltimore is way up in the top of the Chesapeake Bay. If you want them beautiful blue crabs, chat, out of the Chesapeake Bay. You got Baltimore up here, and down here is the Chesapeake Bay. Oh, get you some beautiful blue crabs. Get you over on the eastern shore. It's the place to go. Don't hang out here. Go be the cool kids that hang out and look. They even got a town for Phil, Denton, Maryland. That's actually kind of like the big stop once you get over the bridge and you're into Maryland if you're trying to get to Delaware. So that's like the big oasis. Oh. Now from here, are they soft shells? I mean, you can get soft shells, but no, normally when you're getting the Maryland, when you get blue crabs, usually, like, especially if you're out in Delaware by that point, they're hard shelled mainly for me. So, but they go on and they talk about the vehicle's debris and including oil and cargo containers. The destroyed bridge obstructed the channel and shut down the port of Baltimore. The port of Baltimore was not open for 77 days. Reconstruction is ongoing, and the eastern span of I-695 has not been open. It struck the bridge. Why did it strike the bridge? Because it lost power twice in a roughly 4-minute time span. The first blackout was likely caused by a loose wire in a high voltage switchboard. The ship quickly regained power, but a second one occurred right after. The second blackout occurred because the defendants relied on a flushing pump, which is a type of pump that you would use to flush things out, to supply fuel to 2 of the ship's 4 generators, which is not a fuel pump. Unlike pumps designed to service these generators, the flushing pump could not automatically restart following a blackout, which means it didn't have any fuel going to the engines. When the flushing pump was not started in time after the blackout, the two running generators became starved to fuel, and it caused a second blackout. And consistent with the law governing commercial vessels and accepted engineering, Dolly was built with automated redundancies that enabled the ship to quickly recover from power loss. The fuel supply and booster pumps were designed to automatically restart. Dolly was never designed or approved to use a flushing pump as a continuous supply pump. The flushing pump did not automatically restart and it did not have a redundant standby. If they had used the proper pumps, the vessel would have regained power in time to safely navigate. And here's the thing. This company has been using it as a similar thing on at least 3 vessels since 2020. The dual blackout the night of the elision was at least the third dual blackout experienced by one of their vessels. Dolly experienced 2 blackouts within approximately 10 hours. Notice, chat, it's not even that moment. That moment. Not just that moment. They had it the night before. The first blackout occurred while the vessel was docked in the port of Baltimore the night before. The second blackout occurred that night and resulted in the elision. The third dual blackout occurred 15 months earlier on another vessel, the MV Maersk Saltoro, which also used a flushing pump. They knew of the improper use and the risk it presented. And they took steps to hide the use of the pump. Following the elision, multiple managers, including this guy, lied to investigators about whether they knew the pump had been used as a continuous fuel supply. Further, they had a history of failing to document and address safety risk. They failed to report hazards, casualties, and other safety issues to the U.S. Coast Guard and other regulatory authorities. Their shoreside managers fabricated and directed the fabrication of safety inspections and certifications, including the fuel supply system. Think about that, chat. Think about that. So we're not necessarily going to go through all of this. We're not too worried about here. But we need to get to this guy. Nair was an employee of Synergy Maritime pursuant to the agreement between them, the two parent companies. He was a technical superintendent for the MV Dolly. As a technical superintendent, he was the shore-based technical representative for the boat and was responsible for the day-to-day engineering operations. At times relevant, he was acting as an agent of them. There's also the chief engineer. According to the internal policy, the chief engineer's responsibilities, and the chief engineer is the guy in charge of the boat. Operation and maintenance of all machinery in the engine room and on the deck, according to the classification society's requirements. Flag state requirements, nation international rules and regulations. Chief engineer one previously served on the MV Cezanne and the MV Maersk Saltoro. At all times relevant, CE1 was acting as an agent employee of Synergy. Technical superintendent 2. Why is this guy not being listed? Because he probably snitched right away when they're looking for somebody to hang on this. The technical superintendent was also for the Cezanne and the Saltoro. At all times relevant, this guy was acting as an agent employee. And they say the owner was the owner of the MV Dolly. Owner hired Synergy to act as his agent and manage all operations. And that's not uncommon. These companies aren't the owners, but they're hired to run them. There's a chartering company, and the charter of the MV Dolly, and they contract the owner to transport cargo to and from ports around the world. They were also responsible for paying the fuel that was consumed. The master is the master and captain. The master is the guy in charge. He is the captain. He's the master of the ship. At the time of the elision, the master has overall responsibility for safe navigation. The master has the overriding authority and discretion to take whatever action he considers to be in the best interest of his crew, company, cargo, and maritime environment. And that is true. These, if you're the captain of a ship or the master of a ship, you have a lot of authority. Like, you can rely on, you have the ability to act out of duress and necessity. And it's actually very well regarded and very much of an uphold traditional legal tradition. And they talk about class. It's a classification society. Also a registered organization that's authorized by the flag state, meaning Singapore, to issue relevant safety certificates for the Dolly to conduct business in the United States, which is important. They talk about the Coast Guard. And this is one of the things the Coast Guard does. They enforce laws and do safety inspections. They board vessels and investigate things. They're in charge of all of this stuff. They say U.S. Coast Guard personnel relied on the statements of the vessel's crew and the vessel's documents, such as official certificates. And they say individuals 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6 were construction workers who were killed. And then they talk about the port of Baltimore, Maryland is located in the tidal basins of the 3 branches of the Patapsco River. They say the port of Baltimore had 5 terminals, including the Seagrit Marine Terminal, which had 4 deep berths and associated cranes for the stevedores union, where Frank Sabaka was making sure that the boats got unloaded, fighting with the longshoremen for scraps. They say the Key Bridge spanned the port of Baltimore, the lower river, and the outer Baltimore harbor. The waters that passed under the bridge were known as the Fort McHenry Channel and were located within the internal waters of the United States. Yes, and they are maintained by the Army Corps of Engineers. Yes, the Corps of Engineers would have been in charge of dredging channels and making sure navigation hazards are running, in addition, along with the Coast Guard. There's all kinds of stuff those two would work together on. They talk about the regulation of commercial vessels. They talk about the Convention for Safety of Life at Sea was created after the sinking of the Titanic. Okay, so let's go here. So what do they have to do? You have to have standby equipment for auxiliary machinery essential to propulsion. Okay, well, what does that mean? They require that propulsion machinery would continue to operate even if one system became inoperative. And fuel oil supply systems are things you need auxiliaries for. Because the Titanic ended up losing power too at one point, and that kind of sped up its demise. So they say, pursuant to all of this, you have to comply with the requirements of the International Management Safety Codes. And what do they do here? So we'll get to all of this. We're not worried about the rest of this here. And they talk about the Ports and Waterway Safety Act. This is the thing here. And they want to reduce the possibility of vessel and cargo loss and damage to life and property. But what are we into here about what they actually did? Because I'm not worried about these laws at this point. But what did they do that was the big issue here? So they had a safety management system, and they talk about all the stuff they didn't do. They said, ensure all matters related to technical situation of the vessels are set down in charter parties' own or other plans and procedures are reported immediately to the technical division. He must ensure that no circumstances operational safety systems are bypassed or ignored. Unless measures are taken to maintain safety, all such deviations from a safety system must be reported to the company, explaining the background for the deviation. And that's because of the insurance involved here and the licensure and certification, which would get removed right away. They talk about standby pumps. And they talk about fuel cooling water pumps, fuel oil pumps. They shall always be kept on automatic mode. All changeover of pumps shall be performed in port at the beginning of each passage by tripping the running machinery to enable start of standby pump. Changeover to standby pump should be planned in such a way that a possible starting failure of the standby pump shall not affect the cargo operations. Okay, so they already have an idea. They're to be set to automatically start. And the use of a flushing pump as a primary fuel supply pump for the generators eliminates the redundancies. Yeah, because they don't start right away. There's all kinds of things they have to do here. And they list out problems, and they say like what types of incidents they deal with. A level 2 incident, something that's on board but because of possible offsite effects, requires involvement of external agencies. There may be danger to life, the environment, company assets, and reputation. You're like, that's something Umbrella Corps would talk about. The third-party assets. A level 3 incident is one with the potential for casualties, widespread damage to the environment, and the involvement of port flag states and third parties. Yeah. SAR! That's what all this is here. So what's the nature of an incident? A power failure when the vessel is in coastal waters or navigational hazards, like a bridge, or high traffic density, or in heavy weather, imminent danger. There's also mechanical failure when the vessel's in coastal waters here. These are massive problems. They point out record keeping is very important as during investigations, they're used to reconstruct the actual incident. They say an incident report in the prescribed format shall be prepared as soon as possible. Now, what happens? Engineers have logbooks and movement books that have to be kept in the engine department using official publication material. And it says scrupulous activity is essential in making entries in logbooks, movement books, and other records. And it says the engineer on watch shall make required entries in the logbooks during watch and shall sign it after leave and before leaving the engine. Yes, once you're relieved, you sign off on everything. So they talk about response measures for electrical power failure. And it says failure of electrical power could have serious consequences. It says a quick investigation to determine the reason a blackout was mechanical or electrical should precede the restarting to ensure a greater degree of success in restoring power. Yes. And they say on the last page of their technical manuals, in case of blackout, all engine room staff should maintain calm and restore the ship back as per checklist. And chat, if they, I don't know if I have any maritime or merchant marine people here, but yes, there's actually a light. Being on a boat is fucking. There's a lot of work involved in that shit. A lot of work involved in that shit. The GTubes mod AI has the Izzat of the collective to protect. Yes. Not a bridge, a restricted waterway. Oh, okay. I will defer to the sailors here. I mean, anything could, a lighthouse is technically a navigational hazard, I guess. Technically, isn't anything you can hit's a navigational hazard, really, I thought. So the checklist includes measures to be taken after power had been restored. You go, sir! No, what are you doing? Do the needful. They had to record any generator trips. They have to advise when power is restored, and you have to advise terminal and advise all parties concerned. So, when they talk about the fuel supply problem, so here we go. 4 diesel generators, also referred to as auxiliary engines, provided power to the MV Dolly. They were numbered 1 to 4. Very creative. Very creative here. The generators consumed fuel to generate electricity. The fuel supply pump that supplied fuel was designed with redundancies and automated features enable the system to quickly and automatically recover in the event of an outage. For instance, the fuel supply pumps were designed to automatically restart. Additionally, the fuel had a set of standby pumps that automatically restarted in the failure of the primary pumps. Fuel supplied through 2 separate lines, commonly referred to as a generator engine fuel oil system and main engine fuel oil system. The generator system, the generator engine fuel system supplied to 3 and 4, while the main supplied to 1 and 2, which, okay, makes sense. Sounds good here. Eric says that would be me, but I do private yachts now. Did the mods mute you? No. In chat, let's damage some Indian Izzat with some sobs. The flushing pump was a maintenance pump, which flushes fuel lines of existing fuel. The flushing pump can service all 4 generators. From in and around 2020 through the elision, Dolly used the flushing pump as a continuous fuel supply pump. I'm surprised that thing didn't burn out. It's not what it's meant for. The flushing pump is not designed to automatically restart. And unlike the fuel supply pump, monetized Kick, I've tried. Kick is not working with me. They're tough. They're being dicks. Unlike the fuel supply and booster pumps, the flushing pump doesn't have a standby. Unlike those, the flushing pump cannot be started remotely from the engine room. And they point out this is not approved by class or Singapore. So the electrical system had 2 switchboards. The generators provide electricity to switchboards. And they said that, the switchboards protected equipment by shutting off electrically when abnormalcy is detected. And that's what happens. You pop a circuit breaker. Just like you're in your house, it opens up and shuts it off. You restore power by closing the circuit. The switchboard powered relatively high-powered equipment such as the engine's lubricating oil pump, bow thruster, and scrubber system, and refrigerated container system. It also distributed electricity to the switchboard for the low voltage switchboard. Before that electricity could go to the low voltage switchboard, it had to be converted into lower voltage by one of the vessel's two main transformers. And you could just see when they fucked around with this, guys, how many systems they fucking ruined by doing this. And they said it would go to low power things, including fuel supply pumps and certain other functions. The switchboards were connected by two different circuits for redundancy purposes, although one circuit was in use at any given time. Yeah, and guys, remember these boats, two is one and one is none. There were two recovery modes, manual and automatic. When a circuit breaker is set to manual recovery mode, a human operator has to manually close it. They talk about the dual blackout on December 9th on the other boats here. And they had all kinds of things happen. So the blackout was a lube oil pressure alarm and generator too. And these guys had the same fuel design. So the Saltoro and the Dolly are the same ship. They're sister ships of the same class. Let's see here. It just goes, chat. And they say after generator 2 failed, generator 3 automatically started, but the Saltoro experienced a second blackout due to the improper reliance on the flushing pump as a primary fuel supply pump. And on August 28th, the technical superintendent received an email from an employee explaining the vessel experienced two blackouts and it was caused by the flushing pump. Well, now we get to our situation. What happened here? So at 2:20 p.m., while the Dolly was docked, a crew member performed repairs on a scrubber for generator 2. He inadvertently caused the exhaust damper to close, which caused the pressure to back up into the generator. It caused the generator to stall and the vessel lost power. As part of the ship's automated recovery, the ship automatically restored power, relying on generator 3. 3 was in standby mode, meaning it would be the first one to turn on. When 3 came online, the flushing pump had not been restarted. 3 ran on residual fuel in its fuel oil system, and 5 minutes after coming online, it died. The crew was required to investigate the blackouts, document the investigation, and report the blackout to the port and report the blackout to the Coast Guard. Well, the crew of the Dolly, including the chief engineer, did not notify the terminal or anybody. The shoreside company received alerts associated with it, and they didn't alert anybody. And they say the crew of the Dolly did not record the generator trips. And it says details of the collision. Okay, so as it works, the Association of Maryland Pilots, the AMPS, Senior Pilot 1 and his apprentice are on board the Dolly. And guys, if you don't understand what a harbor pilot is, this is the reason why people who fly airplanes in the Navy are called naval aviators, because a pilot is who you use to help you get out of harbors, because the pilot knows every inch of these fucking places. Where's the best way to get ships in and out of? They know it front to back. And they help you, they ride with you and they help you get out past here. And then you hop on a little boat and go home. But yes, the pilots are operating the ships. That's why you don't get to, they're flying the ships. That's why there's like a flying bridge. But that's why aviators are aviators and pilots are pilots. Also, it sounds cooler. During the master pilot exchange, master reported to the pilots the ship was in good working order. And that's the thing, because while it's in the harbor, the pilot's in charge and the master hands over control. At 12:36 a.m., they departed the terminal with 2 tugboats. And then they entered the channel for Fort McHenry. The tugboats disengaged, and then they went back. At 1:24 a.m., the Dolly experienced electrical loss. The loss of power is caused by a loose wire in the switchboard. Due to the loose wire, the circuit breaker opened, cutting power to the low voltage switchboard. The loss of power caused the main engine to shut down. At 1:25 a.m., the engine shut down. At 1:25:58, the low voltage switchboard recovered power when the crew manually activated transformer 2 on the second circuit that could transfer power. The ship was designed to transfer power from one circuit to the other automatically, but remember, it was set to manual. So somebody had to activate the circuit. The restoration of power to the switchboard initiated a series of sequential starts on the vessel equipment. Sir, the boat is not working, sir. And yes, these pilots are experts. They know everything there. They know where like the deep channels are. They know the edges of the channels. If there's sandbars and shoals and shallows, they know all of it. The pilot called the dispatcher and told the dispatcher to shut down the bridge. Like already, the guy's like, "Oh my God, stop the bridge!" At that point, the crew members who manning the helm stated, "We are swinging the starboard side, side." Because if you're not nautical, starboard is to your right. Pilot 1 responded port 20. And you know why we know all of this? These ships carry black boxes. There are voice data recorders in the bridges of these ships. And it was instructing the helmsman to turn the helm 20 degrees to port. And chat, this is, while we're here real quick, as a segue, this is criminal conduct, but you know what's not criminal? Going to the dragonstreasure.com using promo code criminal for 10% off your coffee, your tea, and your soaps. Chat, I think you need to understand right now, you need to understand me. Myself and Meme Copium, we are locked into a struggle for our very survival. Very survival, much like the fatherland versus the motherland in the 1940s. We have to win our struggle, chat. It is our collective struggle, and we will receive that final and ultimate victory. I know we can, because you will help. There's a battle raging, and it's about who can make the most sales for the T-Man. Using promo code criminal. Do not cope. No self-respecting man would ever cope. And I know you're self-respecting out there, so don't cope. Don't cope. Don't cope. Do it, chat. We got to win. We have to win. By God, we will win. And then, chat, also, don't forget MAF Corporation, MAF-arms.com, 10% off Hot Crim. Springtime, chat, even though here it's been like 50 degrees and raining for the past 2 weeks, it's still spring. Get your wind chimes ready, chat. We're going down to Florida. We're going to need more wind chimes. We're going to need like wind chimes for all year round. Get your wind chime supplies from Matt and the gang. And then, chat, last but not least, Stoney's Bar at 158 East Broadway Street in Rockville, Minnesota, chat. We got to address what's going on at Stoney's. Stoney's got all kinds of things, home of the $2.50 cans every Thursday. Guys, it's bike season. It's time to go to Stoney's. It's time to go there. Crank your hog in front of everybody there. Crank your hog for the crowd. Let them see it. They'll cheer you on while you crank it. They had Rebel Lobster there tonight. They got all kinds of things going, chat, as they get this here. They're doing all kinds of things. They're doing a 5th annual 100-mile ride coming up here to support Bikers Against Child Abuse, which is actually kind of a bullshit thing. Don't get me started on that. Starting May 16th. I don't particularly think you should support that cause. I don't like them, but whatever. Later on that night, you have Unloaded Duo. They are performing at Stoney's on Saturday night. That is where you can go. May 16th. Stoney's, serving Minnesota. Premier biker establishment. 30 years running. 30 years, chat. That's a long time. That's a long time. So... AK Blackfoot, Sean, do you even have a sponsor from them? No. It literally started out like mocking Steel Toe over it. And I thought it was fucking hilarious because remember, the first time I did it was when Aaron got his criminal appearance and, the Steel Toe arraignment show. And it was live, limited commercial interruption provided by Stoney's. And it just kind of went from there. It's just fun. Good-natured fun taking the piss. Good-natured fun taking the piss on that. Patty Letter says, why is Baca bullshit? Because they show up to court hearings dressed like the fucking Hells Angels. They show up wearing like cuts, like leather, like vest with patches and shit on them. And they show up like that. And it's like, is that really like they're there to make those, we're here to make those little children feel fun? No, they show up as intimidation. They're sitting in the back of a courtroom looking like the fucking Hells Angels and shit. I don't like it. Like, why can't they show up in polos and slacks and be like, yay, we ride our motorcycles? No, they're like, we're big bad bikers and we'll protect you from your bad people out there. It's like, why? Why are we doing that? Then they show up in court like that. I've asked them to be removed before. And I said, Your Honor, if this was a biker gang, like they dress like one. There's a reason why they do this. They think it's important and it conveys an image. I don't like it. I think it's highly prejudicial. So that's why. It's cringe as fuck. There. So I just did it for you. Cheeto loves you, Sean. I know he does. I know Cheeto loves me because I do better ad reads than Aaron does. And that's fine. It's totally cool. I love nothing but love for people out there doing the right things. And also, we know Stoney's is a pedophile-free bar because when pedophiles showed up, they kicked them out. So they intimidate who? Opposing parties. They could intimidate the jury and influence a jury. I think there's a lot of problems with it. So some guy with cancer says, you're afraid of bikers. Got it. I'm not worried about me. I'm worried about the jury being afraid. Objective Gestalt sounds pretty performative. It is. It's entirely performative. It's theatrical. It's entirely fucking theatrical with those people. They could wear fucking polo shirts and do it, but they don't. They're bikers. Ooh. Rub. Like that's what they have to do. So. But anyways, let's move on. Less than 30 seconds after Star, I'm trying to port. The electrical power had been supplied to all the equipment necessary to go. The flushing pump needed to be manually restarted. At 12, less than, a couple seconds right before that, the pilot called for tugboats. And that had to be scary because he knew what was happening and he couldn't stop it. That was already a foregone conclusion. At 1:27:04, there was a second power outage when the flushing pump had not been restarted. The fuel pressure lit a second blackout. Right after that, generator 2 the standby successfully connected to the switchboard. However, it took another 20 seconds to close it, resupplying to the low voltage switchboard. The crew needed to manually close transformer 2 because it had been set to manual, not automatic. At 1:27, seconds later, the pilot's screaming hard to port, and the wheel was all the way to the left. Doesn't matter. It's not going to do anything. And what do they do here? The ship recovered from the second power outage, and power is restored to the switchboard of the vessel. The restoration of power initiated a series of sequential starts. The pilot called for the bow thruster to be used full to port, which is reiterated by the master, but the bow thruster never activated. By 1:28:20, power had been restored to all necessary equipment to operate the vessel. The vessel recovered from the second outage through generator 2, and the fuel and supply pumps supplied fuel automatically restarted. Okay, great. But that's a lot of time it's out of action. Like this is, you notice all these timelines are very short because that's how critical it is on a boat. Literally later, it was already going to set to strike the bridge. Like it was too late. It's too late by that point. So, starting at 1:24:59, so 5 minutes, and then less than 4 minutes later, the bridge was struck, and it was too late. So the NTSB is the Independent Federal Agency for Civil Aviation Accidents. and significant events in other modes of transportation, including maritime, but also the Coast Guard as well. So they went through this, and they interviewed Nair as part of it. Nair was in India during the interview, which was conducted by video conference. Sir, 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 what are you doing, sir? Are you using AI, sir? During the interview, he falsely stated he was unaware of the operational use of the flushing pump. He also falsely stated the main switchboard was inspected every 5 years. This is the other thing, chat. When the Indians do this, like Izzat, you protect your Izzat by lying. And if he admitted that he hadn't been doing his job, that fatally wounds his Izzat. And he can't injure it. He says a fuel supply system, the MV Dolly was capable of supplying marine gas oil, marine diesel oil, very low sulfur oil, and heavy fuel oil to its generators. The pump, however, is only capable of pumping the most expensive of those fuels. Yeah. So later, and this is on May 29th, they asked him about the use of the very low sulfur on generators 3 and 4. He falsely stated he was unaware of whether they did. On or about May 30th, they interviewed the technical specialist by video conference. During his interview, he falsely stated he was unaware that the Maersk, Sartoro, and Cezanne used the same system. Now, notice he falsely stated, but he's not being indicted. They made him flip. The conspiracy. So, what are they doing here? This is where it gets a little large here, but they talk about all the things that it did. What do? They made false statements. They used materially false writings. They had fictitious entries, forged inspections and certificates. And the purpose of this was to avoid delay, interference, and detention and compliance with laws designed to protect the United States, ports and waters. Because if this stuff goes wrong, the Coast Guard shuts you down and the boat doesn't move until you remedy it. Yes, minus 9,000 is that, pretty much. On the manner and means of this. So what did they do? Well, they hid things here by using the pumps for the wrong purposes. They never identified and notified the Coast Guard of anything that happened, and they have to notify the Coast Guard. Yeah, it wasn't his job. He was just the guy writing papers for that ship. He still falsified statements to cover up the actual reports. Yeah, but he's protecting his Izzat. His Izzat. Because if he doesn't cover his Izzat, he did something wrong. And that's how this works with Indians. They pawn it off on each other. It's a very Asian thing, all this shit. Papering it over. Like the Indians love their corruption. They love hiding shit, papering over problems. It's further part of the conspiracy that they concealed the use of the pump by omitting or removing any mention of it in ship documents, including internal audits. And the notice of arrival form submitted to the Coast Guard and blackout procedures, checklists, and drills. Yes, it's very much a hot potato. Further part of the conspiracy, they did not seek approval from the certifying agency or Singapore to use the flushing pump as the primary fuel system, because they would have been told, fuck you, you're not doing that. Singapore is actually they're not a third world country. They operated in ports and waters, and they obtained approval from the U.S. Coast Guard by presenting bullshit documents. Further part of the conspiracy is they didn't do risk assessments to evaluate the risk. They never had the inoperability and redundant supply of this all going. They never checked anything. They never did anything. They forged electrical inspection certificates and posted them in the control rooms when the Coast Guard would inspect. It was part of the conspiracy. They forged fictitious testing and inspection certificates. They did all of this. Kay is still here. Says the Coast Guard should check those documents a little better. Problem is, Kay, if the thing says we did it, we did it. There's no way to know until you'd have to tear that ship apart to figure out how those pumps were connected. The documents are going to be proper and full and working order. That's an issue. That's a thing. If your documents, if your papers are in order, there's nothing to find. So what happened here? So the chief engineer created 4 inspection certificates for fuel supply pumps. He created them. And he said they're running satisfactorily. In fact, the pumps and booster pumps were not in use. The chief engineer, too, signed a certified a chief engineer's report for confirmation stating, I, the undersigned chief engineer on the above ship, carried out an open-up inspection, and everything was in working order. And they go for all this. It caused them to issue cargo ship safety construction certificates stating the condition of the ship, its machinery, and equipment was satisfactory to comply with the safety of life at sea. Um, P-Dub says that the marine inspectors are legitimate retards. Yeah. Um, Jack, you're saying, why doesn't last break was applied 2 minutes? This break is also called an anchor. Oh, okay. We can explain this here. Okay, so the way it would work is if you're on a boat, I'm on a boat, man, it's going fast, and you're on a boat, okay, and you're going this way, okay, and you want to stop. Actually, if you watch the movie Battleship, it's actually a really good example of what happens. You drop anchor, as the if you I'm not gonna actually. I'll say, it's like Delta Gamma. Nothing goes down like an anchor. Sorry out there, the ladies in that sorority. But anyways, you drop the anchor. Okay, that's a single point of contact, and you still have all of that momentum. What have you turned it into? You've turned it now into angular momentum. The ship will now spin around that point, so it'll go. And that's assuming the anchor even bites and stops. The anchor will drag along the bottom. So, like, the ship could just swing around it. Like if you're swinging a bucket full of water on the end of a rope. So it doesn't stop right away. But even if it could stop right away, that ship is still moving and not controllable at that point. So just dropping the anchor does not fix your problems. So. Yeah. Oh, and Eric, okay, you answered this. Yes, it changes the direction of the movement. Yeah. Yeah, you turn your boat into a wrecking ball if the anchor secures at the bottom of the bed. Yeah, that's true. And a majority of the time, they're not at the bottom. Fair enough. So, someone has been listening to Sal Mercogliano. No, I'm not. I mean, just like watching. I remember I Googled, in the movie Battleship, if you drop an anchor, can the boat just like that? And yes, it can. So, no, I have some knowledge out there. I find out. I understand some stuff. I understand stuff. Why isn't the bridge built yet? Because Baltimore is corrupt as fuck. Um. Oh, the anchor's not meant to bite. It's pull the chain down. The chain weight keeps the ship in place. Okay. Am I saying that? Am I saying that dropping the anchor will not do the needful? No. Yeah. Multi-anchor drifting. Well, that's another thing too, I guess. Oh, all right. Let's keep going here, though, guys. We got to finish this up. We got shit to do here. We're gonna get done quick here, chat. Only 2 hours in, but we're freaking minutes late. Okay, so what happened here? So on or about September 19th, they caused the MV Dolly to arrive in Baltimore and fail to notify the Coast Guard of a hazardous condition using the flushing pump to supply fuel to generators. In November 4th, the chief engineer took a picture of a draft email with his phone and sent the email to Nair on WhatsApp. That's totally not like you're trying to. Notice what they did. They find all your shit. Oh my God. Yes, Sal is a great resource on stuff, but I never noticed it on that. They went through all their shit, chat. They got search warrants. Chat. Who buddy? The email included the statement the crew did not know the condition of the piping system and contents of the approved fuel supply boosters. There was an emailed response from the charterer said that they weren't aware of the condition of the piping systems and approved stuff. The email said the supply system was isolated. Now they're just fucking around. And they caused the MV Dolly to arrive in Baltimore again and failed to notify. You have to notify every time if you don't fix these problems. They emailed the charter and said the fuel system is not in use following a piping modification. They said the generators are using different types of oil. They once again did not tell the Coast Guard of a hazardous condition. And this guy is just helping paper over it. And then they caused the MV Dolly to depart. And yeah, they didn't do their job. He also told the NTSB that it was wrong, like a bunch of bullshit. They talk about Nair and another agent of Synergy procured and attempted to procure false inspection certificates saying the vacuum circuit breakers and air circuit breakers had been inspected and tested when they hadn't. Sir! They also use WeChat, saying if Yard they could just provide a certificate, no need to do the actual test of the test carried out to submit to class. This is total some Indian shit. This is some Indian shit right here. Yes. Do not notify the Coast Guard, sir. No. No, sir. No. No. Why you do that? I mean, like, you could just check and negotiate for, say, some $100 for the certificate. Please try and convince the Yard. Do the needful, sir. Sir, do the needful. Pay him in Google. Yes, Google gift cards. Apple Play cards, sir. This is like fucking, once again, if you're an Indian, I'm sorry, but your people are fucking, yeah. They sent a photograph of an email from a vendor who's asked to provide false certificates. The email stated, you should know that the issue of certificate with actual test is based on the trust. We have Izzat, sir, in honor. It is a risk if the ACBs have any issue in the future. My company doesn't allow to issue certificates under this situation. Saying, sir, I will not do the needful. They're using WeChat, talking about the test. The next report will be given on board today. And at some point following delivery of the false certificates, they zip-tied the false circuit breaker certificates to the panels. They emailed the false certificates to the certifying body, and then they emailed with the attachments. And then on or about that same day, sent an email to a foreign company requesting the same fabricated certificates. They also told an NTSB investigator the main switchboard was inspected in dry dock in 2020. On or about June 6, 2024, Synergy electronically shared and submitted to the NTSB the false certificates. On or about then, through counsel, and the council could be in a lot of fucking trouble if he knew this, provided false inspection certificates for the VCBs on the generators to the federal grand jury in Baltimore, Maryland. Oh, man. Why'd you zip tie it? Well, they zip tied it to the thing showing that it was meant to be there. It's not like they zip tied circuits closed. I mean, people do that sometimes. Sometimes people do that. So why you do that, son? Why do you zip tie? On or about March 23rd, through council, they provided once again, man, I don't want to be that guy. Other revote acts. They fabricated bow thruster inspections and saying it had been serviced when it hadn't. They created false technical reports on the steering gears of another ship. They failed to notify the condition of the boat for the scrubber sensors. They failed to report hazardous conditions. So they talk about the 3 times it happened. They neglected that resulted in death. They killed 6 people, chat. They didn't do it. They didn't do their jobs here. And they go on to talk about obstructing the agency proceedings. Well, they all started lying and they submitted bullshit stuff. Obstructing agency proceedings by lying and, showing false documents. False statements that were made. Man, these guys are going down. They're toast. Discharging all the oil. It's really bad, guys. It's really, really bad. So, sentencing allegations, with respect to all of this, the defendants caused about $5 billion in gross pecuniary losses to everybody. Yeah. They destroyed the entire port of Baltimore. I mean, you could almost argue it's a terrorist attack the way it happened. So, man. So, we'll see. We'll see, chat. We'll see. Is this potentially criminal? No, this is very much all criminal. So, yeah, I just think about what these guys did. Like they literally the Indian stereotype. Like they literally did the thing. They did the needful and they killed these people by being ghetto as fuck in their equipment and stuff. Yeah. Just awful, just awful. Real quick here. Skybrick says, when's the MLC Kevin Brennan show appearance? Okay. I don't know. I got to figure out. Apparently, if he offers people, I'll be like, I got to figure out how to make him some money so I can get a nice cut of that action. Yeah, Evan says they had the whole ocean to sail in. Well, yeah, that's not how the ships work, though. Ammo's Currency has been a member for 20 months. Says they got Buck 112 Slim Heritage second from Factory Store. Nice, very nice. Yeah, apparently this guy's statements didn't hold up in federal court. Very much agree. Yes. Johan Naxos for one sub. And then Skeeve Man for 18 months been here, says the Dragon's Treasures coffees are damn good. I attest. Well, there you go. Thank you. And then EDW Raptor for $5 says, Sean, if you keep up this rhetoric against the Indians, you will cause them to scam out. Well, so be it. And then Serenity Two Witches. Is it Serenity Two Witches, like you're giving them Serenity? Or is it Serenity and there's two witches? Are there two witches named Serenity? That's what you get when you give a lawyer a slightly ambiguous name tag there for $50. Thank you. Thank you so much for your support. Says, hello, ignore me, keep doing what you are doing. Well, I did. I saw that. I ignored you and I kept doing what I was doing. So thank you for your support. I appreciate it so very much. Thank you for being here. And then Amateur Iconoclast says, maybe Paul Ehrlich was onto something after all. Well, maybe. Oh. Hardwires again says, as potentially criminal, Tardy Tard, how many ships went under Baltimore Bridge a night? He's a fucktard. A lot of them did. They weren't, ghetto rigged pieces of shit run by a bunch of Indians. So I don't know. I mean, like, I don't get the point of that one. But okay. I don't get the point. I only ignore you guys because I love you. Yes. Well, yes, there's the Costa Concordia crashes. There's all kinds of shipping disasters. But like this is 100% like Izzat. Like, Indian culture caused this. Yes, I know. Apparently I insulted the proud heritage. So all right, guys, we have two stories left. We're going to knock them out here. The next one is you guys may have heard of this guy, Chud the Builder. I had actually never heard of this fucking dude prior to what's gone on. I've never heard of this guy. I've never heard of this dude. I didn't know shit about him. But Chud is apparently a free speech patriot. Christ is King. He's an Orthodox. He's also America First. So he's probably a pedophile or a homosexual. Just keeping with the trend of Ali Alexander and the gang and Nick Fuentes. I mean, did Nick Fuentes come hunt for him, or is he not officially in? Is he officially not in all of that? We don't know. We don't know, Chad. But anyways, IRL live fun on Pump Fund, which that sounds really gay, speaking of gayness. You know, pump fund. And then here we Nick Flood has just avowed him, I'm sure. I'm sure he did. So he's down in Clarksville, Tennessee. Okay. Well, so what does he do? What does he do? Well, he goes out and stirs shit up. So what does he do? Well, this is him. And yeah, we're gonna listen to it, chat. So get ready.
That nigger guy. Got your body cam on? No? I want to know what y'all were talking about before I walked over here. You've been saying it here the whole time in your live stream. What's he videoing me for? You don't know? Anything malicious? You sure you didn't say nothing? Here's that nigger guy. Is that what he said? Huh?
So there you go. That's some of the stuff he does. He does more. He does more. And yeah, here's another example. He fucks around and his shtick is to call black people niggers. It's like, okay, that's not really that impressive or edgy anymore. I mean, you're like, well, what is it that you do that's so unique? I call black people, I look at black people and say the word nigger to their face. Like, okay? Okay? Like, so brave. So brave. But anyways, here we go.
Look at these niggas. Look at this nigga chimping out. They all chimping out. How y'all doing? Yeah. Y'all chimping out. Y'all believe in freedom of speech? Freedom of speech. Y'all know me. Hell yeah. White people can say nigger, right?
Whoa.
Come on. I thought y'all believe in freedom of speech. Y'all don't believe in freedom of speech.
That's how you go viral.
I thought y'all was American. Y'all not American?
I'm definitely American.
They're chimping out. I don't drink.
He walk around, he be like, you chimping.
We've been giving out burgers.
Pepper spray though, so if you run up on him,
We got more than that. We got a little more than that.
So there you go. He's already talked about we got more than that. Well, what's more than pepper spray? Well, thing. How can you hate this man? It's not that I hate him, but we're going to discuss what he's done.
But
he be harassing niggas, and then he just pepper sprays them. Like,
no, dude start chimping
He
out.
doesn't fight. He pepper sprays or he gonna shoot. Like, he don't even fight.
That's crazy.
Cowboy.
You get this shit from
Quick
your
draw,
mama's
right?
side. That's crazy.
I seen this video. I was like, bro, this nigga is crazy.
But freedom of speech. I thought we believe in freedom of speech.
But okay, but you know, freedom of speech, but not freedom of no consequence.
How old your grandmother?
How old?
How old is she?
That's a good question. Like 84?
Y'all gotta talk to this.
70, 75, something like that. I don't know.
What side? Mother's side or father's side?
On my mom's side.
What about your father's side?
Probably similar age.
You finna dick down your granny.
Y'all nasty niggas. Bro. Y'all nasty niggas for that. But chimping out. Niggas chimping out. Look at these niggas chimping out. Look how these niggas chimping out. Y'all are gross. Is that how you feel good about yourself?
I do. I feel great.
Do you
Nigga makes you feel good about yourself?
I just think we're all equal. So I should be able to say what I want.
I've never seen him
I should be able to say what I want.
I mean, he's not even funny when he's doing it. That's the problem here. Like, this isn't good. This is not, I am not impressed. I am not impressed with this racism, especially for somebody claiming to be America first. Is this based? Not like, there's far more ways to be based than this. So anyway, let's just, I guess we'll skip ahead here and watch.
Hold on. No.
Nigger.
He is getting paid.
I mean, I will say these guys are trying, like they're ignoring him and laughing at him. He is trying so hard. He looks very angry that they're not chipping out.
Yo, quit chipping out, bro. We're just niggas.
And that's not chipping out. Chipping out is being like violent and aggressive.
No, I know, but listen. I'm just talking shit like
Yeah,
you
you
talk
can
shit.
say bitch, whatever.
Okay, and you can't
I can say
that.
nigger. I can say, yeah, we can. We're on the same page.
But man, I just can't. Man, look,
Bro.
Look, man, look. I believe in
Come
freedom of
on, bro.
He wants them to fucking lose their shit, and they're not doing it. There's definitely better clips. I know, but this is of the quickest shit I could find on Twitter, so you're gonna have to just deal with it. Oh yeah, here you go. Yeah.
You heard me, nigga.
Fuck your shit, bro. Yeah. Yo.
He got Fendi glasses on. You ain't got shit. You got lens crafters on, pussy ass nigga. This dude, that's why he's making money and you ain't. And he got the V-Lone on. What you wearing, nigga? Your work shirt?
Bitch.
What does that say?
You're a bitch.
Atlum.
You ain't never gonna be nothing but a bitch.
So all you guys do is
You
talk.
can't look me in the eyes because you might be the nigga.
Are you on some shrooms or something? What are you
I already
on?
told you I'm on your mama's sweet
Okay, here.
pussy, bitch.
You're
He looks like Ben Shapiro kind of with a mustache.
a bitch, bro. Literally, all you do is talk about your dick.
I'm sorry. I'm a nigger.
Come back over here.
Okay. Let's not
here.
Let's not fight. I am.
Touch me again.
Now, see, at this point, like all this shit, like, yeah, he touched your hat. Is that an assault because you touched something attached to your body? Yes. Does that allow you now to escalate and go pepper spray this guy? No. You have no right to use any force at that point. Why is he carrying pepper spray? Because he screams that he wants them to touch him. So that he says the word nigger, they get mad and goes, shh. Like, that's his game plan. That's literally this guy's game plan.
Touch me again.
I don't want to get pepper sprayed. I really don't.
Go pick up my hat, nigger. You heard me, nigga.
Fuck your shit, bro.
Yeah, see, I would argue this is already a crime. You're basically brandishing a weapon to get this guy to do something. You're like, you're not going to look sympathetic in front of a jury. And here's why this is important, why he did all this shit. Well, things kind of fucking escalated for Home Slice over the past couple of days. And yeah, we're going to get to all that because here's where this goes. It's low quality bait. It is low quality bait. And he got charged with attempted murder. You might be like, oh, what happened? What happened here? Well, he shot a guy. In Clarksville, Tennessee. And there is some footage of it. There is some footage of what happened. It's not very clear, but he did. He called a guy a nigger, and the guy starts attacking him. And, well, as it all goes down, he ends up shooting. You're like, and you're like, well, what's going to happen here? Well, he shoots the guy, and yeah, there is some footage of it. So here we go. Damn it, I just lost it. Oh, crap. So here we go. Here is some footage of it here. So here you go. And obviously you can see right here, this is the video here.
Oh my God. Holy shit.
They're out here.
Somebody got shot.
Yeah. Yeah.
In between.
They got him.
They got him. Holy fuck.
So yeah, there you go. And it keeps going. And all this happens. So what happened? Well, Chud shot the guy. And, people are trying to claim, oh, the guy has a history of, threatening to kill his wife with a screwdriver and trying to burn down their house. Okay. You still just can't go up to people and beat the shit out. Like, you can't just shoot people because you entice them into a fight. Well, what happened to Chud? Chud actually shot himself and shot the guy. So he is now being charged with attempted murder and basically down in front of a courthouse. And there's all kinds of problems with this guy, though. Like, this is a screenshot I pulled off his fucking profile. From May 6th, preparing to defend my life. These words are what would exonerate me. Stay tuned. There's another one here. May 7th, he says the series finale is a dead chimp on the pavement and you monkeys riding when I walk free. Stay tuned. I mean, here's the problem. Chat. How the hell did he shoot himself? Because the guy got on top of him and there was like a scrum. So, I mean, here's the deal. You have to go in front of a jury. And I don't care where you are. But remember, what is a jury? A jury is comprised of normies. You're not going to find, you guys are not going to be on that jury. Okay? It's not going to be you. Not going to be a bunch of based chads who know what a chud is or anything like that. It's going to be a bunch of soccer moms and normies who are going to be mortified that this guy's game plan was, I'm going to say the word nigger, and then eventually I'm going to shoot any black people that attack me. That's not going to go well. And here's the thing. Maybe he is justifying the use of self-defense. Remember we talked about before. If a jury hates you and they decide to say, fuck it, we're convicting this guy because he's a piece of fucking shit. That's not going to be something a court can review. And they'll say, sorry, the court didn't, not, guilty. I mean, and that'd be a really foolish way to go to fucking prison because you pissed off a jury because they think you're a fucking shitbag. I mean, it's based. I don't know. I mean, like the guy who run around screaming nigger all the time. Does this guy have some fetish of like wanting black guys to fuck him forcibly up his ass? Because he's going to get that now when he goes to prison. Like he's going to get black men to forcibly penetrate him. Like you don't have to go to prison for that. You can go find black guys to do that. In fact, call Nick Fuentes' boyfriend. It's probably a guy who can do it already for you. If you aren't actually afraid, it's not self-defense. You don't have to be afraid. That fear that you're going to get injured, like, I don't want to get hurt, and I know it's happening. Like, you don't have to be terrified. Like, if you came at me and I'm like, ah! Like, I'm not scared. I have to go, ah! I could, I could be like a space marine. Yeah, he wanted to pick a fight to use his gun, which, yeah. Stace says, yeah, would you want that read out loud at my trial? Nope. You wouldn't want this. You wouldn't want this screenshot at your trial. Is this like an example of fighting words? Yes. Yes, and that's the thing. It's words that are fighting words are words that are meant to cause a breach of peace. Calling black people niggers is going to do that. You call some Jews kikes. You run around screaming about spicks or, gooks. Like, you're going to get people wanting to fight you. Can't go, oh, well, nigger's just a word. Yeah, no, you're going to get black guys who want to fight you. And you know it's going to happen because you're looking for a chimp out. You can't do it. Can't do it. Would I represent him? Sure. It's going to be really fucking tough, but yeah. If he came to my door, I'd defend him. It's just, this is not an easy thing. Cyberchud says they can attack you, break in your home, anything they want, you'll get charged. Okay. When that stuff don't start with that. It's like that gay bullshit. Like, oh, the guy broke into my house and fell through the skylight and he sued. It's like, no, that doesn't fucking happen. That doesn't fucking happen. Chorgon says, if Chud was actually attacked, could he claim self-defense? I mean, he could claim it, but is a jury going to buy it or give it to him? Remember, well, why did the guy attack me? It wasn't like he's like, I was just walking down the street, just do the best day ever. No. He's walking up to black people going, nigger, 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 nigger. Ow! Ow! Stop! Ah! Like, no, you don't get to do that. That's not how it works. Also, I understand there's some of you out there who'd be like, that is the best day ever if I go around and do it. But I'm just pointing out, there's two different things he did here. This guy went looking for a fucking fight and he got one. You can't act shocked then. Yeah, you can't provoke people into self-defense. He talks in the wild like you talk Home Alone. Yeah, well. Maybe he wants to be a prison girlfriend, I guess. That's just... Yeah. So... you can't do it. You can't do it. This is not a crime. Yeah. Mario says, do you think there's an equal protection problem here, or viewpoint discrimination problem considering race or ethnicity as the fighting words doctrine? Maybe. The biggest problem is the Supreme Court, other than Chaplinsky, never, and I had a case where I did an appeal for a guy where he was cursing out the police on the street, and they cited for disorderly conduct. Like the Court of Appeals upheld it, but mostly the federal circuits have realized, because most of the fighting words cases come from people arguing with the cops. That's the only time people ever get arrested for using swear words. And they point out that like fighting words have basically been reduced at this point now to the final frontier of, I'm sure you know this, Mario, racial words. Because if you guys remember, I talked about this before in Chaplinsky. In 1942, calling somebody a fascist and a goddamn racketeer was considered fighting words. If you call somebody today a fascist, they might go based. But I'll think about it. If you called somebody a goddamn racketeer, most people are going to say, "The fuck's a racketeer? I don't play tennis." So I don't like. It doesn't have that same je ne sais quoi to it. Do I think it could be viewpoint discrimination? Maybe, but I don't think you're going to get SCOTUS to pick this up, and I don't think the circuits. I don't think they would hold. Maybe the Fifth Circuit would, but this guy in the Fifth Circuit, he's in the Sixth Circuit. So, and based on my understanding of Sixth Circuit case law, they wouldn't take it. So, at least I wouldn't think so. Let's see. Clippers are going to clip that one. I'm sure they will. Scheme Man for £5 sterling, but not the King sterling, to this Scotsman. So if you go around shouting "fuck the king," then they put you in a cell with Prince Andrew. Don't ask me how I know. I just can't sit properly now. Did they make you wear a wig when you went in there with him? Oh. The dude that got shot posted that he was going to find Chud. And you know what? I mean, that becomes an issue. Like, are they both provoking a fight? I mean, maybe. Is that kind of negated if there's, you're antagonizing people and the guy wants to go get antagonized? Once again, I don't know. And is it a jury could say, fuck both these people, we don't like anybody? Maybe, but once again, it's a jury full of normies who are going to decide, like, well, yeah, I can understand black people wanting to stomp a mud hole in your ass. So you're going to have to figure that one out, guys. It's not an easy one to do. Do you ask for a trial by a judge? No fucking way in hell. A judge is not going to find you screaming nigger, nigger, nigger at everybody. I would not want to go in front of a judge. A judge is not going to be sympathetic. You maybe get a hung jury, but you're not getting an acquittal out of this. Cyberchud says, it's not that juries are mind broken. It's just that normies have, these senses of decorum and manners and being polite. And, we talked about this with the mattress shooting case in Texas. When you use violent force, like, people will say, oh, I think you have the right to defend yourself if someone breaks into your home. They've never game planned, like, the idea of, like, going through their house at 3:00 in the morning with, like, a Beretta 92 and getting ready to fucking put a hole in a guy and blasting him. So, like, with the dumpster twins, that dumpster case, those guys got into a violent, deadly encounter over a fucking mattress going into a dumpster. To the average person walking down the street, they'd say, you guys are fucking insane. Like, it mortifies them that, you got it on. That's like the first thing. They're like, holy shit, these guys killed somebody. Okay. Well, number two, why'd they kill? They're fighting over a fucking mattress going into a dumpster. Jesus Christ. To a regular person, this is insane. So now we've got deadly force encounter. Like, holy shit, you shot someone. Number two, oh, because I go around and troll black people and scream the word nigger all the time. Like, have fun selling that. Have fun selling that to anybody. Not going to do you well. Oh, I mean, it's just, it's. It also might be a black judge, but even then, yeah. The judge is a politician, you're done. Well, that's true, Mario, as well. But the bigger issue, though, you have to remember, though, the judge is going to be kind of a normie. Remember, the judge is not one of us. Judge is not a YouTuber. Judge is not on Kick. Judge isn't in Discord. He's a pretty he's a pretty normal person too. Remember, like I said, judges aren't going to let us make explosives in our home and make AK-47s in our home. They're normies. Guns are icky. I mean, there's a politician issue, but it's also just a normie issue. A lot of problems with it. A lot of problems with it. So, no, there's no good answer here. Will the black guy be charged? That's unjust. I mean, you know, he's the more sympathetic person here. He went to, you know, he wanted to go fight a guy acting like an asshole, and then the asshole shot the guy. It's like, who's more sympathetic? Not getting charged. Yep, the father and son, the dumpster bros. Yep. Yep. You'll sit on that jury. Yeah, well, you're not going to probably get on that jury. Absolutely. Thank you. Is this Chud's long-term plan to have gay sex with the Aryan Brotherhood? I mean, there's other ways you can do it. They're already gay. Yeah, he's not going to win a self-defense hearing, but like he's going to probably have to go to trial, and it's like, so yeah. I feel like this is the line that Alex Stein walks up to but never quite crosses. Yeah, well, there's that too. Patty says if it was a black dude saying anti-white stuff who shot someone, he'd not even be charged. You know why? I remember one time I was in college and we were walking down the street past the bars, and some black guy was drunk off his ass. And he looked at me and my buddy and he said, "You cracker ass motherfuckers." And you know what we did? We're like, yeah, we're white. Cool. Have a good one. You know, it's like the Boondocks. You make fun of white guys. It's like, ha ha, yes, I am white. Run along. Like, you're not going to like, oh, you're a cracker. Cool. Like, you know, my whiteness siccates you. Based. Suffer. Like, you know, that's not going to hurt you. Doesn't hurt me. Like, you can't hurt me. Yeah. It's like, wait, I'm white. Yes, I fucking love being white. Based. You know, like your words don't hurt me. I'm not an 85 IQ. Your fucking words don't hurt me, motherfucker. I'm going to do my thing. Oh. I love how they literally legal for treason the way they treat us. I mean, like, I don't know. I mean, do you like, if you're that worried about black people calling you cracker, man, I don't know what to tell you. This is the clip, son. Yes. And the black guy pointed at Sean. No, you're not. He's like, you're part Italian. It's like, I'm like, how did you know? So Bronco's doing a show on this tomorrow, but I think he thinks Chud is fucked. I think so. It's going to be a very tough sell. You've got to come in and sell this. It's like, man. Oh, man. I would not want to be this guy. It's going to be a rough time for him, man. It's going to be a rough time. He does some other stuff, and there's one more statement he's made. And I believe this is around the time frame where he did it. I'm trying to get it to load up here. Let me see if I can show this. Okay. Let me see here. Nope. It won't show up. Damn it. But here's what he says, and I quote, "I punked out dozens of chimps live on camera, so you monkeys are grasping for air trying to find a W. Somehow reporting assault after the chimp ran away like a coward is somehow an L. You don't belong around us." Like, no one's gonna like this for you. You can't be this guy. It's just, it ain't gonna work. And you can't, like, you know. If he doesn't go to prison, God, he better buy a lottery ticket. He's gonna need to, because you know, people are like, oh, he's got a GoFundMe. He's probably not going to have it for long. And if he does, all that money is being used by his defense team. So, yeah. And also imagine that. I have 2 kids. You know, he has 2 kids, and his idea is to strap on that tard armor. And what is he agitating for? Like, abolishing, racial voting districts or anything like that? No. No. He's running around screaming the word nigger at black people. That's what he's strapping on the tard armor for. So stupid. So stupid. All right, chat. Oh, wow. We're going late here. We got to go. So anyway, big update. Big update. South Carolina Supreme Court dropped its ruling on Alex Murdaugh. And holy cow, it's good. It's good. So what do they get to here? Well, this is an appeal from Colton County. And remember, this case had issues with the clerk fucking with the jury. And Judge Newman was the one who initially had the trial. And then we had Jean Toll. She was a former South Carolina Supreme Court justice. And she was the one who looked like a tranny. She looked like colored tran ma. And she held the hearings about Becky. And she said, I don't find you credible. But she refused to give a new trial. Well, guess what? Reversed and remanded TLDR. TLDR. And what names do you see? Well, you see Dick Harpootlian, good old Pooter, back in the game, back in the saddle again. And then who do you see down here? Deputy Attorney General Samuel Creighton Waters. Creighton Waters. That scumbag himself. Now notice they talk about per curiam. And they talk about the case here. They point out, though, however, all this happened, Becky Hill put her fingers on the scales of justice and thereby denied Murdaugh his right to a fair and impartial jury. So imagine that, all because Becky was chasing clout. She chased clout, chat. For want of a clout-chasing hoe, a case was lost. And they point out, though, because we order a new trial on this basis, it's not necessarily we review every other evidentiary issue. And that's, the issues of judicial, limitations on what they do. They point out, though, however we address the admissibility of the financial crimes and to offer guidance on this thorny issue. They normally don't ever do this. But yeah, here we go. So the procedural background, we're not going to worry about. We're not worrying about all this stuff here. But as this goes on here, though, this is when Becky said to watch his actions and watch him closely. She said, not to be fooled by the evidence presented by Murdaugh's attorneys. And she said to watch him closely and look at his actions, look at his movements, which she meant to say he's guilty. Yes. Becky did all kinds of things. And one of the jurors said, I felt pressured. And as we go through all of this, and they talk about, they cite Becky's book, Behind the Doors of Justice, the Murdaugh Murders. Remember, the entire thing that was ghostwritten and plagiarized. Becky Hill claimed literary license and explained some of the more dramatic passages. She denied wanting a guilty verdict because it would sell more books. She claimed the outcome of the trial did not matter to her, but she acknowledged as true a passage in which she stated she believed Murdaugh was guilty, but was concerned he would be acquitted because of his family's goodwill in the community. So what did she do? She granted favors to the media. She let them view exhibits, including sealed exhibits. She then pled guilty to perjury, which is bullshit. She didn't go to prison for it, but she should have. But she denied all that stuff. But as we go to this, let's actually get to what happened here. And there were some issues with the jurors. And we're going to get to the analysis here. Because this is the big thing here. And Murdaugh asserts a case, Remmer versus United States Supreme Court case law, that prejudice is presumed from Becky Hill's comments to the jury, and the presumption is irrebuttable. And the alternative, they contend the state failed to produce or rebut the presumption. And the state argues the jury convicted because he was obviously guilty and not because 3 jurors heard Becky Hill's foolish and fleeting comments. They say that we agree with Murdaugh. Prejudice is presumed from Becky's comments. And while the presumption is rebuttable, the state failed to overcome this. And remember, chat, the defendant is guaranteed the right to a fair trial by an impartial jury. Only the defendant, not the state. Never the state. Never let anybody tell you the government's entitled to a fair trial. They're not. They're not. And the right can be infringed when a third party makes improper contact with the jury. To protect the right to an impartial jury, the Supreme Court created a rebuttal presumption of prejudice, saying any private communications, contact, or tampering with a juror during a trial about the matter pending is for obvious reasons presumptively prejudicial. If not made in pursuance of known rules of the court and the instructions and directions made at trial, with full knowledge of the parties. The presumption is not conclusive, but the burden rests heavily upon the government to establish, after notice and hearing of the defendant, such contact with the juror was harmless to the defendant. And they point out that the Fourth Circuit noted, in addition to the presumption of prejudice, that Remmer established a separate but related requirement a defendant be entitled to a hearing where they present credible allegations of communications or contact concerning the matter pending before the jury. They also say the Fourth Circuit established a 3-step test for all this and how this works here. And it says the party who's attacking the verdict bears the initial burden. And they say if this standard is satisfied, the Remmer 1 presumption is triggered automatically. The burden then shifts to the state to prove that there exists no reasonable possibility the verdict was influenced. Okay. And they provide those things you can determine here. And they break it down. Any private communication, private contact, any tampering, directly or indirectly, about the matter before the jury. Even then, really just talking to a jury, period. And ultimately, the court has to examine the entire picture, including factual circumstances and the impact on the juror, because Remmer came back as Remmer 2 in 1956, not just 1954. They say in determining whether the statement is burden rebutting the Remmer presumption, courts consider a variety of factors, including the extent of the communications, the extent to which it was discussed and considered by the jury, the type of information communicated, the time of the exposure, and the strength of the state's case. It matters. It matters. The number of jurors exposed, the weight of the evidence before the jury, and the likelihood curative measures were effective. The judge would say, disregard that woman, don't listen to her. They go on to show, though, and they talk about case Parker v. Gladden. They talked about Remmer and Parker a lot, Chad. That extreme prejudice is inherent when the trial is made by an officer of the court. And they point out here that the Supreme Court did not apply the Remmer analysis in this situation. In Parker v. Gladden, a bailiff who oversaw the sequestered jury stated to a juror in the presence of other jurors, "Oh, that wicked fellow, he is guilty." The bailiff also told another juror, if there's anything wrong in finding petitioner guilty, the Supreme Court will correct it, meaning don't worry, judicial review will fix it. That never does. They say at least one juror overheard the statements. But you can't do that. You can't do it. And they say the Supreme Court noted the 26-hour deliberations on one juror's testimony she was prejudiced supported the finding of prejudice. And it said that unauthorized conduct of the bailiff is such a probability of prejudice, it's deemed inherently lacking in due process. Meaning it's the court itself, because remember, the bailiff is an agent of the judge, and that bailiff tells the jurors what to do. And the jurors are going to say, well, that guy works for the judge. He must be part of it. It would be blinking reality not to recognize the extreme prejudice inherent in those statements, meaning you'd have to be fucking insane. They say, however, not all comments by officers of the court are prejudicial. And they talk about case in Green, and they say here that what would happen in the event of a deadlock, and he responded, the judge would give them an Allen charge and ask if they could stay later. They shouldn't be answering any of those questions, but that's not really important. You could argue that, but I think that could be prejudicial because now the jurors are like, I don't want to do this anymore. And they say that, our unwillingness to categorically apply the Remmer presumption of prejudice stems from our view that not every inappropriate comment to a juror rises to the level of constitutional error. And yes, there are splits regarding whether the presumptions have survived. They go on to talk about there's a case, Smith v. Phillips, where the Supreme Court declined to impute bias to a juror who'd applied for a job in the prosecutor's office during the trial. And this regarded a federal habeas relief. Chat, remember, federal habeas corpus petitions, you're going back through and challenging everything in federal court. Well, what did the Supreme Court say? The remedy for the allegations of partiality is a hearing in which the defendant has the opportunity to prove bias. And they say due process does not require a new trial every time a juror has been placed in a compromising situation. Instead, it's a jury capable and willing to decide the case solely on the evidence before it, and a trial judge ever watchful to prevent prejudicial occurrences. Why do they say this? Because they don't want to send every case back, because they know that would destroy the system. They go on, though, to discuss here that there may be circumstances where an intrusion is presumed prejudicial, but a presumption of prejudice does not change the ultimate inquiry. Did the intrusion affect the jury's deliberations? Well, they talk about these cases have never overruled the Remmer presumptions here. And they go on to talk about how do you apply this. And they talk about their own things here about how things have worked. And they acknowledge the court's not always implied the Remmer presumption for external influences on a jury. They talk about in Kelly. An appellant asserted the court erred in denying his motion for mistrial when a capital case juror shared a pro-death penalty pamphlet in the jury room during the penalty phase. Think about how fucking insane that is. Because the appellant framed the issue on appeal as the denial of a mistrial, the court noted in order to receive a mistrial, the defendant must show error and resulting prejudice. And the appellant failed to show prejudice. We did not discuss Remmer. And this one is an issue of, well, we probably would have agreed with you, but you didn't cite the right issues. There's another case here, and they talk about State v. Bryant. They say a death penalty appellant moved for a new trial after discovering detectives from the same police department, as the victim contacted jurors' families after the jurors were death penalty qualified, but before the jury was selected. And they said in cases where the partiality is questioned after trial, it's important to conduct the hearing. And they say we noted detectives' actions could have been perceived as an attempt to intimidate jurors. Yeah. I think about that. The police were fucking calling the jurors. Absolutely insane conduct. You know, they didn't discuss Remmer, and they entitled the appellant to a hearing where they had the burden of proving the actions were more than innocuous. And they say, we clarified today that when faced with a third party's improper things, we follow this test here from Cheek. I'm going to bust some cheeks. You have to show that presenting evidence that they were more than innocuous interventions. That the minimal standards met, the presumption is triggered automatically. And 3, then the state has the burden to prove that this was harmless. And they say under this framework, we'll look at the facts we have. First, what comments did Becky Hill make? And they say that, you know, the post-trial court referenced only a few of them. They say it's an important day, or this is an epic day, and to watch Murdaugh's body language. The state argues that it's not being credible, and they say, we find this argument without merit. And the post-trial court, and this is that Judge Toll situation, we watched that hearing, they didn't find the comments not credible, nor will the record support such a finding. They found that Becky's denial of making the comments lacked credibility, like they knew she was lying. The court made no distinction regarding the comments it referenced. It found that credible Jersey's affidavit statement concerning pressure. That same affidavit said, don't be fooled. Look at his actions. Look at his movements. And the state offers no rationale for finding part of the affidavit credible while rejecting the other part. Remember, she also says they're going to say things that will try to confuse you. Don't let them confuse you or convince you or throw you off. And it says these were strikingly similarly statements that were Hill made to McElvin and other staff members, and the media went away from the jury. And then, attempting to insert herself into the deliberations to these comments was in line with her desire for a guilty verdict. Her meddling in events around juror 785's dismissal. Remember the egg juror? She got people tossed because people were going on here, and her self-aggrandizing conduct throughout and after the trial was very clear. As the post-trial court found, Hill was attracted by the siren call of celebrity and allowed her desire for public attention to overcome her duty and oath of office. Yeah. What a dumb bitch. What a dumb bitch, chat. You know, and they say, we have no reason to find she didn't make all those statements the jurors reported. And they've established that, you know, she made the comments. So now you have to decide, were they more than innocuous? Well, yeah, they were pretty clear. They were pretty clear here. So all of her statements were considered important. Like, there's no question about that. So, and this is actually interesting here when they talk about this case here, that a plaintiff in a medical malpractice case was prejudiced when a juror who'd worked with the defendant doctor vouched that the doctor was a good, reliable doctor, and explaining the doctor received the benefit of having a character witness on the jury who could attest to his skill without being subjected to cross-examination. And the idea that they let this guy in the jury is fucking insane. Think about that. A medical malpractice case. Has this doctor worked on you? Yeah. And they didn't get rid of him. Oh, there's a sassy footnote I passed. Oh, yeah. Okay. So, yeah, Hill's lack of credibility during the hearing on the Murdaugh motion for a new trial is further evidenced by a recent guilty plea for perjury stemming from the hearing to her denial of allowing members of the press to view exhibits. Yeah, Becky has been a complete piece of shit, and she deserves what she got. It's sad she didn't get fucking sent to prison, which I think she should have. Like, it has to be stopped. And so they say the following question, and then finally, did the state meet the heavy burden of proving there's no reasonable possibility the verdict was affected? And yes, this is the point here of the rules of evidence. It limits the testimony a juror may give on the issue of prejudice. So the juror may not testify as any matter or statement occurring during the course of deliberations or to affect anything upon that or any other juror's mind or emotions. Except a juror may testify on the question of whether extraneous prejudicial information was improperly brought to the jury's attention or whether outside influence was improperly brought to bear on them. So notice, you can't talk about what we were talking about, but when somebody from the outside our circle, anybody outside the circle, well, I can tell you all about that. Just not inside the circle. So they go on to interpret court rules, and they talk about the same rules of construction used to interpret statutes. Okay, well, pretty straightforward there. Pretty straightforward about how you interpret this. So, when they point out, though, if you ask a juror whether he listened to and considered all the evidence, you're going into his mental process about reaching the verdict, which is not allowable. So they say, we find by the plain language of Rule 606, it authorizes jurors to testify about improper extraneous comments by the third party. So what does that mean here? Well, the state contends that Murdaugh cannot complain about the post-trial court questioning regarding the affidavit because he submitted the affidavit. So it's your problem. They say, we disagree. They're preserving the safety of the jury room. But ultimately, we do not allow parties of the public to impeach that verdict with evidence of what occurred between jurors in the sanctity of that room. They put out, this is not Alec Murdaugh's right to waive. Thus, the portion of the affidavit in which she disclosed her mental process was inadmissible. And the post-trial court erred in questioning her about that portion of the affidavit, which is interesting. Now that I'm unemployed, will I be streaming the Murdaugh trial whenever it happens? Yeah. I'm not unemployed. Jesus. Ooh, 3 hours, chat. Let's get this done. Let's get this done. And they also hold the trial court erred in finding a lack of prejudice because the comments were only heard by at most 3 jurors and were made in a case with overwhelming and compelling evidence. And it wasn't. It wasn't overwhelming or compelling. And they say, first, the trial court erred because the comments were not limited and not subject to overt as opinion. She clearly advised the jurors and urged them to render a guilty verdict. Yeah, it's absolutely disgusting what she did. She was the primary caretaker of the jury and it amplified her conduct, just like being a bailiff. And the number of jurors, the comments didn't reduce their effect. And the Supreme Court explained you're entitled to a tried by 12, not 9 or even 10 impartial and unprejudiced jurors. They all have to be. They all have to be. They point out, though, there are reasonable minds about whether the evidence was overwhelming. In the situation before us, notwithstanding the strength of the case, the state is unable to overcome the presumption of prejudice. The state's case largely rested on circumstantial evidence, and Murdaugh's credibility is a key component of his defense. And Becky's comments were going to push the jury one way. And they point out the focus of harmless error is not on the sufficiency of the evidence absent the error, but rather the impact of the error on the jury's verdict. And they say the breathtaking and disgraceful effort of Hill to undermine the process is unprecedented in South Carolina. Think about that. They wrote that. It's unprecedented and disgraceful. Oh, it is. It's absolutely, it's like my torch press would say, it's outrageous conduct. And, the issue about, any curative instructions. Was the jury cured? Did the trial court's instructions to the jury cure any prejudice? Well, the trial court gave standard instructions and admonishments. None of them provide guidance on what to do when the clerk of court, an officer of the court, made comments disparaging the defendant's credibility. And the trial court never had the attempt to cure the effects because they didn't come to light until months after the trial. So it couldn't happen anyway. It couldn't happen anyway. So Alec Murdaugh met his establishment. The state's unable to meet its heavy burden. Accordingly, we hold the right to a fair trial was violated, and the post-court erred in denying his motion for a new trial. Now, the evidence of financial crimes. They say we need to address the evidentiary issues that are raised on appeal here. They say we elect, however, to offer the trial court on remand the following guidance regarding the admissibility of the financial crimes. And notice they put in addition here. In addition to the challenges that Murdaugh appealed the trial court's decision to allow the state to question a witness on redirect about a witness's knowledge, to admit firearm and tool mark evidence, to admit evidence of 4 guns seized from their estate, of the blue raincoat, allow the state to question Alex Murdaugh on cross as reasons he didn't reveal until trial his presence at the kennels. And remember, he testified and admit evidence of an iPhone demonstration during the state's rebuttal. Remember, they talked about the iPhone showing like how it tips and all the information it contains to show that he left the phone sitting on the counter when he went to go murder them. So what is this? And they say at the time of trial, Murdaugh had been indicted for numerous financial crimes. And he got like 30 some years for those, I think, at least. And the state level, and then he got a bunch more at the federal level. He's going to die in prison anyway, I'm pretty sure. And they say during his testimony before the jury, Murdaugh admitted he committed the crimes, although he had not at the time been convicted of anything. After trial, he pled guilty and he got a concurrent 27 years of state prison and 40 years in federal prison. So he's got 40 years he's serving. And he's already in his late 50s, 60s. He's going to die in prison. Well, remember, the government sought to admit evidence of these crimes during the trial for the purpose of showing his motive. The state filed a pretrial motion which said he accrued debts over the years, and to cover those debts, he began stealing money from his clients at his own firm. He stole millions. And they say all of these factors start to converge the date of the murders. Well, they challenged it under the rules 404, 402, 403, and 404. And the trial court had a lengthy pretrial hearing, but declined to rule on that at the time. And they say during various breaks in the course of the trial, the state presented testimony of 8 witnesses regarding the financial crimes. I remember we watched this, and it just fucking drug on. Like, We get it. He stole a bunch of fucking money and it just wouldn't end. It was awful. The trial court decided the jury was entitled to consider whether the apparent desperation and the threat of being exposed was a motive. And he says they were admissible and non-propensity evidence. And because it does not suggest to the jury he has a tendency to commit murder. Yeah, but it did. But they go through all of this and they talk about, that he stole money from his clients by billing expenses under the guise of those expenses being part of their case. He stole money from his law firm. Write checks to the local bank whose chief executive officer enabled Murdaugh to convert them for his personal use. He stole money from his clients at his law firm by paying out to a consulting firm that he had created to imitate legitimate groups. He then deposited and used for personal expenses. He then stole money from a guy named Tony Satterfield by filing insurance claims in relation to his mother's death and collecting the insurance proceeds for personal use instead of giving them to the family. They said that he had been doing this for years of stealing. They talk about that they confronted, that Murdaugh was being confronted as it was all happening. And, these people were referring to $700,000 in missing fees the firm was supposed to get. And it just kept going. They also presented evidence of the Mark Tinsley, the one dickhead attorney that showed up there. He had scheduled a motion for 3 days after the murders in which they sought to compel disclosure of his financial records. And they challenged all of this. And ultimately, they say, we agree the evidence made the state's theory more probable. So the trial court did act within discretion under the financial crimes thing. Okay, great. But they point out, well, should you have excluded all or some of the financial crimes present? Well, that's two distinct issues. The first is whether the trial court should have excluded all the financial crimes evidence. Is a point on which not all members of this court would have ruled the same way as we had been in the trial court. They say, we agree, though, this was the decision within the discretion of the trial court under the facts that existed. As to the second category, whether the trial court should have restricted the extent to which they were allowed to present the evidence, that is, whether the state should have excluded some of the evidence, we held the trial court was allowing the prosecutors to go too far and too deep into aspects of the financial crimes. It gave considerable unfair prejudice. So they're saying, look, we all don't agree. Some of us would have excluded it all, some of us not. But we all agree you went way too fucking far. Because remember, this was multiple days in the trial of all of this. It was so much crap. The state argued that they presented a valid theory, and the fabricated motive theory is illogical and implausible and not supported by the evidence. Here, and they say the trial court's decision was whether the state's theory of motive was reasonably plausible, and if so, whether the evidence presented could support it. And they say, we agree with the state. Under the facts and circumstances in Murdaugh's first trial, the trial court acted within its discretion not to exclude it. But the problem was how long this went. And they say, we emphasize the trial court should have limited the presentation. And here's a great example of it. They're asking a guy named Tony Satterfield, were you the personal representative and not your brother? And he says, yes, because my brother is a vulnerable adult and he has a disability. And this is, the judge is like, can you repeat those? My brother, he's a vulnerable adult and he's not able to function as a normal human to be dealing with stuff like that. And it says that had zero probative value. It was obviously highly potential for unfair prejudice because he's preying on vulnerable victims. I mean, there's way too much going on here. And they point out, by our calculation, the prosecutor spent a total of 12 and a half hours of actual testimony before the jury over 10 days of trial to introduce evidence related to the financial crimes. Remember that. 12 and a half hours. Yes, and that's the housekeeper who died at the house. Yes, their family. Think about that. 12 and a half hours, chat. That was like 2.5 days of this shit. It drug on forever. And remember, they interspersed it in the trial. So, remember, it says, we don't intend to require the evidence to be admitted on retrial, but the court must redo all of its analysis. We do intend to require, however, if the trial court decides to admit the evidence, the state must complete its introduction of that evidence efficiently without lengthy presentation with little or no probative value. So what happens here, as noted, Becky Hill's shocking interference was accomplished outside the presence and knowledge of the outstanding trial judge and superbly competent and professional counsel for the state and defense. So they're like, nobody knew. Nobody was wrong. Everybody did everything right. So he gets a new trial consistent with this opinion. Reversed and remanded. The entire fucking Supreme Court of South Carolina concurred. Fucking 5-0 shutout. Wow. Wow, chat. Wow. So. Interesting stuff, isn't it? Interesting stuff. So. We are all caught up, chat. We are all caught up tonight. Dang, streaming at midnight. Yeah, I know. Well, with that said, you should read for audiobooks. Yeah, well, with that said, I am fucking exhausted. Wait, hold on. What's somebody asking about the sword? Is that a long sword? Yes, that is a why won't this fucking thing move? Oh. What the hell's behind me? Oh, I almost ran over a bonbon. Jesus. Yes, that is a training vector for European martial arts. So yes, it's a training sword. So you could spar. Yeah, it's fun stuff. Fun stuff. And give me 1 second. I have to go pay the water bill before I say bye. Hold on. Sorry, guys. It's been 3 hours. I couldn't hold it. All right. So tomorrow night, not sure what we're going to do. I am fucking exhausted. We are not doing locals tonight. I got to get to bed. Finally, I can sleep without the dogs singing their song all night. So, how do you conceal that sword? You don't. You would carry it openly, as the tradition would hold. So with that said, guys, go into bed. Have a nice night. We'll do something tomorrow night and then maybe something over the weekend, but I'm fucking beat. It's been a long 2 weeks. You don't see Bonbon. Bonbon was on last night. Go look for it. With that said, chat, I will see you guys tomorrow. And remember, until next time, just because you did it does not mean you're guilty. Although I'm guilty of being EP as fuck. Good night, chat. Take care. Oh, crap.
Weapons black. smithing and models of planes, esoteric works and even some trains. Much merriment had while drinking White Claws, tips on hunting and even talking the law. Whatever you do, just don't talk to cops, even when they nab you on illegal stops. Just 'cause you did it doesn't mean you're guilty, but please talk to a local attorney. Was that the fat guy Rick hated yelled at?